Chapter 395. Seeing that the Moon Empress was acting strangely, Mystic Moon hurriedly said, "Moon Empress, I heard that Spacetime Elder has been depressed recently and doesn't speak for a few days. He was seriously ill some time ago and has yet to recover. What do you think?" When the Moon Empress heard Shen Yu's words, she couldn't help but look a little embarrassed. Elder Spacetime didn't act rashly just because his granddaughter insisted on being a courier. Half a year ago, someone complained and asked for a replacement. What does that old thing's illness have to do with me? However, after Mystic Moon's reminder, the Moon Empress recalled the Spacetime Elder's gloomy expression. The Moon Empress gave up on the idea of going to the Spacetime Elder's place to prick a larger hollow crystal mother shellfish. Thus, the Moon Empress continued to explain the situation of the Divine Wood Federation to him. The Divine Wood Federation's climate is warm and humid all year round, and it is especially suitable for plant phase and spiritual ingredients to grow. The entire Divine Wood Federation can be considered a treasure land with abundant plant fae resources. The Divine Wood Federation's various plant faes produce a lot of spirit fruits, so almost every household in the Divine Wood Federation uses spirit fruits to make wine. Also, I don't know if the people in the Divine Wood Federation are influenced by the environment, but they all love poetry, singing, and even some literary works. After listening to the Moon Empress' introduction of the Divine Wood Federation, Lin Yuan began to think about how he should develop in it. At this moment, the Moon Empress spoke again. Although the Divine Wood Federation is a treasure land rich in plant phase and has precious and powerful plant phase, the Divine Wood Federation doesn't have many plants. However, the Divine Wood Federation's creation masters are extremely scarce. There isn't a single Class 5 creation master in the entire Divine Wood Federation, and the highest-ranked creation masters are only 2 Pinnacle Class 4 creation masters. At this point, the Moon Empress paused slightly and suddenly changed the topic. If you go to the Divine Wood Federation, don't drink too much of the fruit wine there. Their wine is different from ours. Many of the fruit wines brewed by the Divine Wood Federation have added protein-rich insect species phase organs. It is said to enhance the flavor of the fruit wine. When Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress' words, he had a complicated expression. Could an insect species phase internal organs really enhance the flavor of the fruit wine? The bitter and smelly insect species phase organs were added to the intoxicating sweet fruit wine. What kind of immortal taste was that? Even if he was a curious baby, he did not have the interest to try it all. Lin Yuan suddenly thought that the people of the Divine Wood Federation were quite creative. Was this considered simplifying the cultural style of there must be meat when drinking wine? The Moon Empress spoke again. Because the Divine Wood Federation lacks creation master resources, the status of creation masters in the Divine Wood Federation is unimaginably high. The Divine Wood Federation has an aristocratic system. Even a Class 1 creation master is considered an aristocrat in the Divine Wood Federation. If this Class 1 creation master is walking on the streets and feels that he has been offended by the poor, then this Class 1 creation master has the authority to execute the poor on the streets. Upon hearing the Moon Empress' introduction of the Divine Wood Federation, Lin Yuan immediately felt the bloody darkness under the Divine Wood Federation's singing and dancing. Even a creation master could casually execute a poor person on the street if he didn't like them. Lin Yuan could completely imagine how unscrupulous high-class creation masters would be in the Divine Wood Federation. However, this situation where creation masters had an extremely high status in the Divine Wood Federation made Lin Yuan's eyes light up. His faction was still in its infancy and needed a lot of spiritual materials and resources. There were a lot of plant phase in the Divine Wood Federation, so it was a good place for him to collect spiritual materials and resources. Lin Yuan then remembered that the Moon Empress had mentioned the other 2 federations on the same continent as the Divine Wood Federation, so he asked her, "Teacher, how is the relationship between the Iron Hammer Federation and the Deep Lush Federation with the Divine Wood Federation?" Upon hearing that, the Moon Empress suddenly looked at her palm and replied, "A world where strength is respected is full of danger. Although the 3 federations appear harmonious on the surface to outsiders, the open and covert struggles are no less than the collision between waves and reefs at sea. The Divine Wood Federation has a warm and humid climate, so it naturally has a lot of food resources. The Iron Hammer Federation is the opposite. The Iron Hammer Federation's climate is dry, and almost the entire continent is dominated by wastelands. On the other hand, the Iron Hammer Federation is the opposite. The Iron Hammer Federation's climate is dry, and almost the entire continent is dominated by wastelands. Even excellent plants like the needled iron bark tree, which can survive 1 rain a year, have records of death in the Iron Hammer Federation. But on the other hand, the Iron Hammer Federation is very rich in resources, so it has a lot of metal resources that can be used to exchange for other supplies. Lin Yuan was a little confused when he heard the Moon Empress words. According to what you said, the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation form a perfect complement, so there is bound to be a lot of material exchanges between the two federations. In my opinion, these two federations should have a very close relationship. Why is their relationship so tense? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the Moon Empress smiled slightly and did not answer his question directly. Instead she asked, "You're right, but people are always ambitious. You're right, but people are always ambitious. The Iron Hammer Federation is stronger than the Divine Wood Federation in terms of force. If you were a member of the Iron Hammer Federation now, what choice would you make when faced with a land with abundant resources?" Lin Yuan said without thinking, "Plunder?" The Moon Empress looked at Lin Yuan with appreciation and said, "That's right. The people of the Iron Hammer Federation are very tough. They have tried to seize the land of the Divine Wood Federation many times, but the Divine Wood Federation has resisted tenaciously. However, the Divine Wood Federation also paid a huge price for this. Therefore, the Divine Wood Federation hates the Iron Hammer Federation very much. Therefore, the Divine Wood Federation won't let the plant phase produced by the Divine Wood Federation flow into the Iron Hammer Federation to help improve the Iron Hammer Federation's environment. At the same time, the Divine Wood Federation has been eyeing the mineral resources of the Iron Hammer Federation covetously and has secretly attacked the mineral bases of the Iron Hammer Federation countless times." Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan immediately understood that this was a game between the two major federations. At that moment, the Moon Empress said again, "You should be thinking right now that these two federations have already reached the point where one side will not rest until the other is dead, but why are they still maintaining a calm surface?" Lin Yuan nodded. Lin Yuan did not understand this. "Then we'll have to talk about the third federation on that continent, the Deep Venom Federation. Looking for tickets, there are still 4 more code word. End of chapter. Chapter 396. The Moon Empress smiled and explained, "The Deep Brahmin Federation is quite interesting. The Deep Brahmin Federation is quite interesting. The Deep Brahmin Federation is a federation where all of its citizens are scholars and businessmen. Most of the chambers of commerce on that continent are secretly controlled and operated by people from the Deep Brahmin Federation. It's also because of these chambers of commerce that the Deep Brahmin Federation forms a material chain. This allows a small amount of the materials that the Iron Hammer Federation and the Divine Wood Federation refuse to sell to each other. However, the Deep Brahmin Federation is also the most ambitious. At one time, it wanted to use huge resources to control the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation, but it was secretly attacked by the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation at the same time. Since the Deep Brahmin Federation only has an advantage in materials, it is the weakest in terms of top experts. Therefore, the Deep Brahmin Federation's chambers of commerce are disguised by the Divine Wood Federation and the Iron Hammer Federation every year to plunder the supplies controlled by the Deep Brahmin Federation's chamber of commerce." Lin Yuan listened to the Moon Empress talk about the relationship between the 3 federations on another continent. He could not help but rub his forehead. The Divine Wood Federation, the Iron Hammer Federation, and the Deep Brahmin Federation were 3 old foxes who schemed against each other. Each wanted to swallow the other 2, but their relationship formed a triangle that constantly pulled at each other. Although they bit each other, they eventually formed a delicate balance. In the end, a delicate balance was formed. Although it was a pool of clean water on the surface, there was a turbulent undercurrent in the dark. However, this made Lin Yuan even more interested as he could only catch fish in troubled waters. The more chaotic it was, the more interesting it would be to stir up a storm. The Moon Empress noticed Lin Yuan's interested expression and was a little stunned. She did not expect her disciple to be a little boorish fellow. The Moon Empress suddenly felt that if she sent her disciple to the Iron Hammer Federation, would her disciple use the Iron Hammer Federation's best hammer diplomacy to smash the Iron Hammer Federation's head when facing those boorish fellows who only had muscles in their brains? The Moon Empress was really afraid that after Lin Yuan teleported through the spatial tunnel, he would directly clash with the factions on another continent. The Moon Empress was not afraid that Lin Yuan would cause trouble, but she was afraid that this would make Lin Yuan lose the purpose of developing on another continent. However, Lin Yuan's question immediately dispelled the Moon Empress' worries. The Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan say, "Teacher, I've decided. Teacher, I've decided. I'm going to build a small stronghold near the city of the Divine Wood Federation. Then I'll slowly make contact with the forces of the Divine Wood Federation. When the Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan's words, she was very impressed. Wouldn't it be better to just go to the Divine Wood Federation's big city and reveal my identity as a creation master? Lin Yuan didn't even think about it before speaking. Creation masters have such a high status in the Divine Wood Federation. Even a Class 1 creation master will enjoy the power of life and death. In such an environment, effort and enjoyment are often equal. I believe it isn't easy for creation masters to survive in the Divine Wood Federation. The Divine Wood Federation, the Iron Hammer Federation, and the Deep Lush Federation were connected to each other on the same continent. A creation master would be in high demand wherever they went and would be able to develop well no matter where they went. The Divine Wood Federation was already lacking in creation master resources, so it gave creation masters preferential treatment. The creation masters would also have firm control over the creation masters and prevent them from leaking out. Therefore, the Divine Wood Federation's creation masters were destined to give up their relative freedom. Moreover, if the Divine Wood Federation's creation masters wanted to compete, they would not only have to give up this relative freedom, but their lives might also be in danger. The Divine Wood Federation had rich Fey resources. As long as there were more high-class creation masters, the Divine Wood Federation's strength could develop rapidly. However, even though the Divine Wood Federation had treated creation masters so well for so many years, the number of creation masters in the Divine Wood Federation had not increased. Therefore, it was obvious that the Iron Hammer Federation and the Deep Lush Federation must have made a move on the Divine Wood Federation's creation masters in the dark. Many of the creation masters in the Divine Wood Federation were probably on the path of growth and had unknowingly reincarnated. Lin Yuan had already seen the chaos of people's hearts in the valley of the controlled Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift. The creation masters in the Divine Wood Federation would only have such a high status in the Divine Wood Federation when creation master resources were scarce. Therefore, Lin Yuan could not help but guess how the number of creation masters in the Federation had not increased. How was it related to the other creation masters in the Divine Wood Federation? However, the more it was like this, the more Lin Yuan wanted to go to the Divine Wood Federation to train. No one was born a genius without studying, and it was the same for Lin Yuan. Even if Lin Yuan had lived an extra life, he still had a lot to grow in. Therefore, the more chaotic the place was, the faster Lin Yuan's growth could be accelerated. When the Moon Empress saw that Lin Yuan could see clearly, she didn't remind him anymore and told him not to be rash when encountering trouble. The Moon Empress tapped her finger on the table and asked seriously, "Do you know what a carcinoma Fey is?" When Lin Yuan saw how serious the Moon Empress was, he sat up straight and became exceptionally serious. Lin Yuan didn't know what a carcinoma Fey was, so he shook his head. However, since the Moon Empress was so serious, it was obvious that she was talking about something that he needed to pay attention to. Those life forms that aren't powerful but are able to destroy low-grade life forms are called carcinoma Feys. For example, the sawtooth devour ants and poison dust locusts that appeared in Golden Edge City 3 years ago. Cancer organisms are rare mutated individuals that appear in the natural world for unknown reasons. Such carcinoma Feys do occasionally appear in the Radiance Federation, but most of the time, before the spirit guards can cause any substantial harm, they will be taken in by the spirit guards. But the Divine Wood Federation doesn't have such an organization like the spirit guards. Plenty of carcinoma Feys are collected by people with intentions and are used as weapons. After hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan felt his blood run cold. Back when the sawtooth devour ants and poison dust locusts appeared in Golden Edge City, it had caused Golden Edge City's overall strength to fall from the 7th position among the 32 major cities to the last position. It was a complete disaster, but Lin Yuan didn't expect that the culprits of this disaster were the sawtooth devour ants and poison dust locusts. At the start of this disaster, the adventurers outside of Golden Edge City suddenly discovered that ants that were usually invisible had suddenly increased. When these ants appeared individually, they were very afraid of humans. Even if they appeared in groups, they wouldn't run far away when they saw humans, but they would try to take a detour. Therefore, most of the adventurers didn't pay attention to them. Even the spirit guards didn't pay much attention to these ants that weren't even the size of a mung bean. However, just after 3 days, when the people of Golden Edge City woke up in the morning, the people of Golden Edge City were shocked to discover that the outside of the city was filled with black ant colonies that stretched as far as the eye could see. Asking for tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 397. By the time the spirit guards reacted, it was already too late. These sawtooth devour ants, which were no bigger than mung beans, couldn't find food outside the city. Driven by hunger, they started to invade Golden Edge City. As long as these sawtooth devour ants saw something, they would use their sawtooth-like mouths to start gnawing and devouring the debris. This caused a large number of Golden Edge City's buildings to collapse. Of course, the sawtooth devour ants didn't just devour the buildings. At the same time, there were ordinary people and low-rank spirit chi professionals who couldn't escape in time. This disaster came with great momentum and didn't give the spirit guards any time to prepare. However, the spirit guards immediately reacted to the situation and began to provide assistance. Logically speaking, the ants in the natural world were produced by the queen ant, and all kinds of ants would work together to maintain the survival of the ant colony. However, when the spirit guards realized that they couldn't find the queen ant based on the ant colony's movements, they looked for a high-ranking scholar. Through research and experiments, they found that when each mung bean-sized sawtooth devour ant ate enough food, it would activate the ant queen gene in its body and produce 100 ant eggs in its abdomen. It would then use its body as nutrients to nurture the 100 ant eggs in its abdomen. This process didn't depend on time, but on how much food the sawtooth devour ants ate. After eating enough food, the sawtooth devour ants could complete the ant queen gene's awakening within 3 hours and use its own death as the price to incubate 100 ant eggs. After eating enough food, the sawtooth devourer ant could complete the awakening of the ant queen gene within 3 hours. Then, at the cost of its own death, it would hatch hundreds of its own kind. This discovery made the spirit guards despair. These sawtooth devour ants were different from the alien insects that appeared in the alien insect dimensional rift. There might be a lot of alien insects, but the smallest of them was the size of a house cat and could be effectively attacked. Moreover, as long as an expert entered the alien insect dimensional rift's entrance and retrieved the source type item, the alien insect dimensional rift would dissipate. There might be a lot of alien insects, but the smallest of them was the size of a house cat and could be effectively attacked. The strength of these sawtooth devour ants might not be comparable to a normal fae even if there were 100 of them. A child would be able to stomp a few sawtooth devour ants to death. However, there were simply too many sawtooth devour ants, which weren't even the size of a mung bean. The ant colony would be able to flatten everything by eating. Based on the sawtooth devour ant's reproduction method, even if there was only one sawtooth devour ant left, the disaster wouldn't be considered over. How could he kill all of these little things? If he found the Radiance Federation's super experts and used a carpet attack within the sawtooth devour ant's range of activity, it might be effective. But if he really did that, Golden Edge City would really turn into dust, and all the wealth would be destroyed. However, Golden Edge City was plagued by misfortune. Another carcinoma fae, the poison dust locusts, had appeared. However, this new carcinoma fae, the poison dust locusts, had saved the precarious Golden Edge City. When the carcinoma fae, the poison dust locusts, appeared, they immediately treated the sawtooth devour ants as food. The two types of carcinoma faes, the sawtooth devour ant and the poison dust locusts, were ultimately victorious. Under the counterattack of the sawtooth devourer ants, only a few poison dust locusts remained. At that moment, the spirit guards took action and captured the remaining sawtooth devourer ants and poison dust locusts in one fell swoop. When high-star scholars and fae observers were researching, it was equivalent to saving Golden Edge City's poison dust locusts. They discovered that the cancerous poison dust locusts could release poison dust while flying. But after some research, the high-star scholars and fae observers were drenched in cold sweat. The poison dust released by the poison dust locust was actually a kind of emotional toxin that could turn love into hatred. The deeper the love, the purer the hatred, the purer it would be. If Golden Edge City's ordinary people and spirit chi professionals were infected on a large scale, then Golden Edge City would become the world's most terrifying hatred purgatory. At that time, a Class 5 scholar had even published an article saying that it was fortunate that the sawtooth devour ants and poison dust locusts had appeared together. Otherwise, it would have been a city-destroying disaster. His master, the Moon Empress, had mentioned that some people in the Divine Wood Federation were collecting these carcinoma faes and using them as weapons. This allowed Lin Yuan to understand the craziness of the spirit chi professionals on the other continent. Just as he was thinking about this, Lin Yuan suddenly felt that his thoughts were a little rigid. Perhaps the other continent was the true appearance of the spirit chi professional world without the protection of a powerful federation. Lin Yuan looked at the Moon Empress' serious and concerned expression and knew that his master had said so much to explain the Divine Wood Federation's situation to him. At the same time, she was reminding him to pay attention to his safety. Lin Yuan let out a bright smile and revealed his white teeth. "Don't worry, master. I will pay attention to my safety." Lin Yuan, who had lived 2 lifetimes, knew the preciousness of life better than ordinary people. Only when one was alive would one be able to shoulder kinship, friendship, and responsibility. Therefore Lin Yuan was very prudent when doing things and wouldn't easily risk his safety. When the Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan's reply, she knew that Lin Yuan understood her other meaning. Just as the Moon Empress was about to give Lin Yuan another piece of pollen frost jade cake, Kai Cha happened to walk over with the ground assorted lotus root starch. Kai Cha placed the assorted lotus root starch in front of Lin Yuan and said, "Young lord, the Moon Empress asked me to prepare the lotus root starch is ready. The lotus root starch that the Moon Empress asked me to prepare is ready and served." Lin Yuan saw that the lotus root starch that Kai Cha brought over was pink in color. It was also faintly emitting a kind of gold and silver luster. It was obvious that the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar was added. A fresh and sweet fragrance flowed into Lin Yuan's nose from the assorted lotus root starch, making Lin Yuan feel as though thousands of lotus flowers were blooming in his mind. Just the fragrance from the lotus root starch made Lin Yuan feel as though the depths of his mind had been cleaned by someone. An extremely relaxed feeling made Lin Yuan feel as though he was lying on a cloud. That was probably the case of the saying, "Only by looking at the lotus flower's cleanliness will one know that one's heart isn't tainted." Lin Yuan looked at the lotus root starch that Kai Cha had brought over and then at the suzerain lotus phase in the pond. He felt immense pressure. If he were to drink this bowl of lotus root starch in front of these suzerain lotus phase, what would these lotus phase think? Would they feel excited? This was no different from chopping off a blackback mountain boar's leg and barbecuing it in front of the boar. After barbecuing it, what was the difference between asking the blackback mountain boar if it wanted to eat it? This was completely drawing aggro. When the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan sneaking glances at the lotus phase in the pond, she couldn't help but smile and say, "In a while, go to your pavilion and drink this lotus root starch again. In a while, go to your pavilion and drink this lotus root starch again. By then you will be cleansing the impurities in your body again. Previously you cleansed the impurities on your body. This time you will be cleansing the impurities from your soul." The silver stamen gold luster cassia cleanses the body in the mortal world and the soul in the heavenly world. However, cleansing the impurities on the soul is not as easy as cleansing the impurities on the body. Recently, due to the change of environment coupled with the fact that something had happened at home, the updates were not timely and had to be constantly updated. Let's talk about the daily updates. It was still 3 chapters a day. After releasing this chapter, Button still owed 2 chapters. In addition to today's 3 chapters, it meant that he would have to release 5 chapters. Today he would try his best to release all of them without owing. Then, "I still owe your little fairy is my 5 chapters reward. I will try my best to add more chapters in the next few days." There are also book friends who are asking about the love line of this book. Is it a single female lead or no female lead? Asking for votes, support, recommendation votes, monthly votes, la la la. End of this chapter. Chapter 398. He recalled the time when he had consumed the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. He didn't even have the time to carefully feel the sweet and fragrant osmanthus fragrance in the silver stamen gold luster nectar. He felt as if a bolt of lightning had exploded in his abdomen. An intense pain spread from his abdomen to his internal organs. Finally, the intense pain was transmitted from his organs to his limbs as if it was going to tear his body into pieces inch by inch. Although using the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar to cleanse his body of impurities, it was equivalent to his entire body being reborn. However, the pain they had to experience during this process was 100 times more torturous than death. Now his master, the Moon Empress, had said that cleansing the soul's impurities wasn't as easy as cleansing the body's impurities. He knew that after he drank the suzerain lotus root powder and the nectar made from the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia osmanthus, he would not be able to drink it. It would be an unbearable torture. He had no understanding of the soul, so what would it look like after washing away the impurities on the soul? Lin Yuan could not help but look forward to it. The Moon Empress instructed Shi Cha, who was holding a bowl of assorted lotus root starch. "Bring this bowl of lotus root starch to Xiao Yuan first, and then fill the hot spring with water." Shi Cha responded before bowing and retreating from the rear hall. She was busy helping Lin Yuan clean up and set up the hot spring in the pavilion. The Moon Empress told him some secrets about the Divine Wood Federation for a while. After a while, seeing that it was almost time, he walked out of the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace and headed toward the pavilion where he usually lived. There were all sorts of rare fays outside the Radiant Moon Palace. These fays seemed to have been released into the wild as they ran all over the Leaning Moon Mountain. Right now there were plenty of precious fays playing outside the Radiant Moon Palace. However, he was not in the mood to look at the surrounding scenery as usual. Instead, he covered his stomach with his hand. He was preparing himself for another round of sweet torture. When Lin Yuan walked to the door of his pavilion in the Radiant Moon Palace, he happened to see a squirrel fei holding a nut that was half the size of its body and constantly knocking it. However, after knocking for a long time, the squirrel fei still couldn't crack the shell of the nut. At that moment, Lin Yuan's line of sight met with the squirrel fei's. When Lin Yuan saw the squirrel fei, he immediately recognized it as a healing-type fei, the pine needle spring return mouse. Those giant nuts were the pine nuts of the gold fei iron pine that was planted on the Leaning Moon Mountain. This pine needle spring return rat was only a silver fei, so it obviously couldn't open the pine nuts of this gold iron pine. The pine needle spring return rat was extremely intelligent and had high intelligence among rodent feis. When the pine needle spring return rat saw Lin Yuan rubbing his stomach, it looked down at the huge iron pine nuts in its hand. The pine needle spring rejuvenation mouse held the pine nuts of the iron pine and rubbed them on its fluffy big tail with reluctance. Then, he looked at Lin Yuan's hand that was covering his stomach and carried the huge pine nut to Lin Yuan's feet before lifting it up. It was as if he was saying, "I'm looking at you rubbing your stomach. You seem to be very hungry. I'll let you eat this big baby." Lin Yuan squatted down and took the pine nuts from the pine needle spring return rat. Lin Yuan had clearly seen the pine needle spring return rat's small movements. This little fellow obviously wanted to eat it, but when it saw him rubbing his stomach, it shared the pine nuts with him. Lin Yuan understood that a large part of the reason for this situation was that there was a lot of food on the Leaning Moon Mountain. However, he had to admit that the pine needle spring return rat warmed him. When the pine needle spring return rat saw Lin Yuan take the pine nuts, it turned around and scurried into the distance. It planned to find some nuts to eat on the Leaning Moon Mountain. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan urged the amber button-shaped source-type source sand on his sleeve to turn it into a wisp of fine sand. When this wisp of fine sand exerted force, it crushed the shell of the iron pine nut. Lin Yuan took this huge pine nut and threw it toward the pine needle spring return rat's running route. This time, the pine needle spring return rat immediately experienced the joy of a pie falling from the sky. The pine needle spring return rat was a little puzzled. It had just given out an iron pine nut, so why did it gain an iron pine nut? When the pine needle spring rat turned its head, it found that there was no one behind it. At that moment, Lin Yuan had already entered the pavilion. Shicha was waiting at the pavilion's entrance for Lin Yuan's return. Upon seeing Lin Yuan enter, Shicha hurriedly bowed and said, "Lin Yuan, I'm here. Your Highness, the hot spring is ready. I've also added some morning lotus dew in it. It can help you cleanse your soul in the hot spring, removing the impurities from your soul." The corners of Lin Yuan's mouth could not help but twitch. How painful was it to wash away the impurities in the soul? The morning lotus clear dew was the condensation of dew from the lotus leaves of high-grade lotus phase at dawn. Among them, the effect of restraining one's mind was comparable to anesthetics used in physical surgery. After Shicha left, Lin Yuan took the bowl of assorted lotus root starch to the hot spring and gulped down the bowl of lotus root starch that had been craving the suzerain silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. Then he entered the hot spring. As soon as the lotus root starch entered his mouth, Lin Yuan felt a kind of intoxicating happiness. The lotus root starch felt warm and very comfortable in his stomach. This comfortable feeling spread from his stomach to his 5 viscera and 6 bowels before finally transmitting to his limbs. Lin Yuan could not help but feel a little puzzled. How was this not easy? This comfortable feeling could not be any better. However, when this comfortable feeling rose to his brain, Lin Yuan felt a chill run down his spine. Lin Yuan suddenly felt that he had become Crazy Dave, and there was a large wave of zombies frantically gnawing on his brain. This feeling was not the kind of pain that came from having one's skull split open and crushed. Instead, it was a piercing pain in the deepest part of his mind that was on the verge of being crushed. He could not find the exact location of the pain, so he could only grit his teeth and endure it. The pain dominated Lin Yuan's nerves, making him unable to even roar instinctively in the pool. He could only empty his mind and passively feel the pain in the deepest part of his mind. At that moment, under this extreme pain, Lin Yuan seemed to see the soul world in the deepest part of his mind that he had never pried into. Lin Yuan could only see 2 turbid illusory figures in the depths of his mind. Black-brown fragments constantly floated on the surface of these 2 turbid illusory figures and were peeled off. As the black-brown fragments were peeled off, these 2 turbid illusory figures became more and more transparent and solid. When Lin Yuan felt these black-brown fragments being peeled off again, these 2 turbid illusory figures became more and more transparent and solid. Lin Yuan felt that the memories of his previous and current lives were becoming increasingly clear. Even those fragments that were suddenly lost and smoothed over the years were all clearly appearing in front of him. Ask for tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 399. At that moment, Lin Yuan's mind was like a trotting horse lantern as he walked the path that he had walked in both lifetimes. The instant he finished walking the path of both lifetimes in his mind, Lin Yuan felt that the depths of his mind suddenly became unprecedentedly clear. This feeling of clarity made Lin Yuan feel that everything in the world had become refreshing, and his thinking had become more transparent. However, under that intense pain, Lin Yuan had already completely collapsed and did not have the strength to move now. The lotus flowers in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace's lotus pond had actually just reached the suzerain grade. They had just comprehended the willpower rune and woken up from their slumber. Their lotus roots being severed at this time would greatly affect their foundation. At that moment, the Moon Empress was pouring a bottle of dark green spirit liquid into this lotus pond. Once this dark green spirit liquid entered the lotus pond, the lotus phase that had just been severed immediately absorbed the energy in this dark green spirit liquid. It was to repair the damaged roots of these lotus phase when their lotus roots were severed. Moon Empress, according to your instructions, the amount of lotus root starch and silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar in Young Lord's bowl of assorted lotus root starch has been doubled. When Shi-Cha said this, she did not understand the Moon Empress' intention. One portion was enough to cleanse the soul. If it was doubled, then the extra double would be wasted for no reason. Even if the Moon Empress doted on Young Lord, it would be a pity to waste such a good thing. The Moon Empress said coldly, "Well done. Well done. This extra portion will allow little Yuan to immediately recover the overdrawn energy in his body to its optimal state after cleansing his soul. At the same time, it can also form a layer of protective film in the soul." Shi-Cha did not say much after hearing the Moon Empress' words, but she already understood that the Moon Empress did not just dote on Young Lord. There was no need to use such a good thing to restore the overdrawn body to its best state. He could simply eat some nourishing spiritual ingredients and recuperate for a period of time to make up for it. The layer of protective film formed in the soul was only temporary. Perhaps in less than a year's time, the energy barrier formed in his soul would naturally dissipate. Although it could withstand the damage to the soul once a year, Shi-Cha still felt that it was appalling to use such a method. Even so, Shi-Cha still felt that using such a method was appalling. Lin Yuan was weak, helpless, and pitiful as he lay in the hot spring. Even after an hour, Lin Yuan felt that there was still no obvious effect. This was because the process just now had exhausted his body too severely. Fortunately, he still had the strength to move his fingers. He took out the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that his master had given him from his diamond face storage box. Fortunately, Lin Yuan had already separated the silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar. The entire jar of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar that could be called a bucket was divided into groups of 10 drops. Otherwise, he would not be able to carry the large jar of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar with the strength of only a finger. A small bottle contained 10 drops of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, and Lin Yuan felt as though he had come back to life. However, even if he consumed these 10 drops of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. Lin Yuan still felt that his overdrawn body had not completely recovered. This surprised Lin Yuan. It should be known that every drop of diamond-grade silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar contained extremely rich energy. Lin Yuan did not dare to imagine how much energy his body had overdrawn from the intense pain just now. He took out another 10 drops of silver stamen gold luster cassia nectar and drank them. Lin Yuan felt that his body's overdrawn energy had finally been replenished. This was when Lin Yuan began to try to enter the depths of his mind to see his soul. Lin Yuan found that he could not do it no matter what. Lin Yuan scratched the back of his head. Logically speaking, a normal person should only have one soul, but I have two. What's going on? Lin Yuan changed into his spirit chi clothes and went to find his master, the Moon Empress. He then left one of the ethereal jellyfish's tentacles for Mystic Moon. After some time, Mystic Moon would bring the tentacle to a more suitable location in the Divine Wood Federation. At that time, Lin Yuan could open a spatial tunnel from here to the Divine Wood Federation. Then Lin Yuan left the Radiant Moon Palace. When Lin Yuan walked to the silver stamen gold luster cassia's side in front of the palace, the mother of Bloodbath jumped from the silver stamen gold luster cassia's treetop to Lin Yuan's shoulder. When the mother of Bloodbath saw Lin Yuan, it was surprised to find that Lin Yuan was different from when he had just entered. Although there was not the slightest change in appearance, his spirit or temperament seemed to have directly improved by a level. This temperament that seemed to point to the true nature made the mother of Bloodbath feel that even if it did not know Lin Yuan and was not his path protector, it would also give Lin Yuan a natural favorable impression. This was because Lin Yuan's temperament of returning to the true nature made it very easy for Fays to get close to him. After leaving the Leaning Moon Mountain, the mother of Bloodbath transformed into a human form and put on the cloud pattern mask made by Hu Quan. Lin Yuan also put on the mask with the majestic sky city pattern on his face. The mother of Bloodbath's strange and pleasant voice rang in Lin Yuan's ears. Did you personally go to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce this time because it encountered some trouble? Lin Yuan looked at the mother of Bloodbath with some surprise. He asked, didn't you comprehend the blood law rune? Why do you know mind reading? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the mother of Bloodbath rolled its eyes at him and snorted. If there was nothing, why would you bring a damn homebody out? How long has it been since you came back from the depths of the endless forest and stayed in the mansion? Lin Yuan had been communicating with Listen on the phone these few days and knew that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was facing the suppression of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce started as a chamber of commerce, but it had now begun to set foot in other fields. In terms of scale, it was more than 10 times larger than the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce that Listen controlled. It could be called a new emerging faction. Previously, Listen had heard that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce only had 2 king-class experts at its peak. However, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce had as many as 6 king-class experts. Among them, 2 were pinnacle king-class existences. Now, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce did not even have 1 king-class expert. This caused Listen to struggle at death's door under the suppression of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce without any room to fight back. Lin Yuan had previously helped Listen promote those 2 bronze/flawless Fays to bronze/epic. It could be considered helping the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce survive a certain calamity. However, even if the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had left Indigo Azure City, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce was biting it tighter and tighter. Asking for tickets, end of this chapter. Chapter 400. When Lin Yuan and Listen were on the phone, he could clearly feel that Listen was completely holding on to the current situation. However, it was undeniable that Listen was very motivated. Listen had taken the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to rely on him and had sworn an oath with a willpower rune. In that case, he would have to be responsible for Listen and the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Soon, Lin Yuan and the mother of Bloodbath arrived at the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Lin Yuan saw a rather large white house in front of him. It was decorated very simply on the outside without any decorations. From time to time, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's employees would take out or move various Fey storage boxes. Ostrich Logistics exclusive couriers would then complete the online supply of goods. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce no longer had any offline resources. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's offline resources had been completely devoured by the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce through commercial competition. Fortunately, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources were very complicated, and the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce didn't know where to start. At that moment, Lin Yuan heard the 2 employees who had come out to move the Fey storage box whispering to each other. Old Zhao, do you think we can get through this? The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce is coming in aggressively. It seems like they won't give up until they achieve their goal. We'll just do our job. Anyway, we can't help. I believe the president will have a solution. By the way, did the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce come to poach you? Those bastards from the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce have come to me several times, but I've rejected them all. I've worked here for half my life. I'm indebted to the old and young presidents. No matter how much the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce offers, I won't go. Upon hearing the 2 employees of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce whispering to each other, the mother of Bloodbath said with some surprise. The employees of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce are quite loyal. Lin Yuan shook his head. Even the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's ordinary employees were poached by the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. In that case, those who are still in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce should be people who are unwilling to leave or have other purposes for the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. The mother of Bloodbath frowned slightly. Undercover? Lin Yuan's face darkened. Since the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has cut off the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's offline resources, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce can only make use of online resources now. The mother of Bloodbath said when it saw Lin Yuan's expression darken. What? Worried about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's future? Lin Yuan shook his head upon hearing that. He was not worried about the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's future but about the safety of the remaining employees. The mass-produced objects made of completely jade-textured powder were simply in short supply in the market. If objects made of jade-textured wood were said to be treasured by the rich and powerful families. Thus, items made from jade-textured powder were the favorites of wealthy families with some background. Therefore, even if the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce lost all its online and offline resources, as long as it was a Chamber of Commerce recognized by the Radiance Federation, it had the functions of a Chamber of Commerce. If he poured these scarce resources into the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, he would be able to let it develop again regardless of the obstacles. However, as the saying goes, the dagger will be revealed when the map is unraveled. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce had been plotting against the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce and had already infiltrated the ordinary employees. This was enough to show how determined the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce was to destroy the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce crushed the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce several times in terms of resources and strength. If they lost the patience to slowly nibble away at the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, would they use force? A loud noise exploded out of thin air in the quiet room. A middle-aged man with a full beard was slamming the table with his hand and yelling non-stop. "Big brother, I don't know why young Master Zheng is so concerned about the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. We've eaten all the offline resources. Only the framework and miscellaneous online resources are left, and I find them too thin. Do you think young Master Zheng is sick?" Another slightly older middle-aged man was holding a wine pot with a dragon beast engraved on it and pouring wine into a cup. Even his face, which was still calm after the loud noise, suddenly changed and he shouted angrily. "Impudent! Is young Master Zheng someone you can talk to? How many times have I told you to be careful with your words and actions? Why don't you take it to heart?" The older middle-aged man glared fiercely at the middle-aged man with a full beard. "Big brother, it's just the two of us. If there were outsiders we wouldn't say such things." The older middle-aged man shouted angrily again. "You should be more careful when it's just the two of us. Otherwise, if you say it's a habit, how can our Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce still receive young Master Zheng's resources?" The bearded middle-aged man didn't seem to care at all and immediately said angrily, "Big brother, the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is so thin and has nothing, and it's so hard to deal with. Why do we have to spend so much effort? We might as well go all the way and settle it cleanly." At this point, the bearded middle-aged man revealed an ominous glint. He was like a little bear that had been hungry for half a month on the mountain and was eager to hunt. The older middle-aged man was calmly drinking the strong liquor in his cup. He picked up the wine pot with the dragon pattern on it and carefully tasted it. He said unhurriedly, "We definitely have to use force, but not now. You don't always use force. Use your brain more. You still have a lot to learn." The bearded middle-aged man strode forward, picked up a wine cup on the table, and placed it in front of the older middle-aged man. "I'm thirsty too. Pour me some." The older middle-aged man took the dragon wine pot and poured a cup of strong liquor for his younger brother. "Aren't you curious why young Master Zheng is putting so much effort into the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce that even you and I don't think highly of?" As he spoke, the older middle-aged man's eyes flickered with a calculating glint. At this time, there was a knock on the door, followed by a shout from the person at the door. "Great President, Second President, Elder Fei's news has come back." The middle-aged man with a full beard said angrily, "Bring it in." After the person who came to deliver the news handed in a paper envelope, he immediately retreated. The older middle-aged man took the letter and opened it. A satisfied look appeared on his face. The middle-aged man with a full beard moved his bare face closer and looked at the words on the surface. He was a little surprised when he saw them. "Big brother, is this the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resource?" The older middle-aged man slapped the paper envelope on the table and said, "Let's see how the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce can hold on now. One night watch, asking for tickets." End of this chapter. Chapter 401. The middle-aged man with a full beard picked up the piece of paper in disbelief. After glancing at it again, he asked curiously, "Big brother, why is this a paper document?" A mocking smile appeared on the face of the older middle-aged man. The person who spread the news is afraid of leaving evidence and doesn't want to lose his loyalty to the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce on the surface. The bearded middle-aged man coughed in dissatisfaction. "Big brother, don't keep us guessing." Seeing that his younger brother was so anxious, the older middle-aged man said, "Apart from Listen, only old butler Chienda, who has served the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce for 3 generations, knows such important news. Who do you think told me this news?" The bearded middle-aged man was even more surprised. This Chenda is very loyal. I promised to give him 2 bronze/flawless phase and 200,000 radiance dollars, but he refused to tell me the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources. I asked him to name his price, but that old fart still wouldn't budge. How did you manage to deal with someone who isn't even afraid of death, big brother? The slightly older middle-aged man used his hand to rub the wine pot with the pattern of a dragon beast on it as he said in a calm manner. I got Elder Fei to capture Chenda's son and 2 grandsons, then I got Elder Fei to implant the mind-controlling silkworm goo larvae into Chenda's son's body. Then I got Elder Fei to release Chenda's son. Just 3 days later, Chenda sent a message saying that he wanted to hand over the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources to me. Chenda isn't afraid of death, but Chenda is afraid that his son will die, and he's afraid that I'll attack his 2 grandsons. The bearded middle-aged man's eyes lit up as he listened. After listening to the older middle-aged man, the bearded middle-aged man couldn't help but say, "Big brother, since we have obtained the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources, why don't we let Elder Fei take Chenda's?" Before the bearded middle-aged man could finish his sentence, the older middle-aged man interrupted his younger brother's words and said, "You've failed to live up to your expectations. How many times have I told you that credibility is the most important thing for the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce to develop its forces? Why haven't you understood? If this gets out, even the Zheng family will have scruples when investing resources in us, let alone other factions that will exclude us." The bearded middle-aged man habitually raised his wine cup and said, "I remember Big Brother's words. I'll remember Big Brother's words. I know I was wrong. I'll fuck you up." When the older middle-aged man heard this, he slammed the wine pot in his hand onto the table. He felt that his beloved dragon beast wine pot was not worth looking at anymore. "Big brother." Lin Yuan looked at Listen and asked, "You can't hold on for a week anymore, right?" Listen's eyes were red from not sleeping for the past few days, and his expression was full of exhaustion. "Listen up, listen, Lin, up. I won't be able to hold on for another 3 days. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce should have just grasped my online resources at this time. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce won't be able to swallow my online resources in less than 3 days. Upon hearing Listen's words, Lin Yuan raised his brows slightly. "How do you know that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources have been lost?" Upon hearing that, Listen's expression became somewhat pained and cold at the same time. "Grandpa Qian has been supporting me for so many years, but when I went to look for him 3 days ago, he wasn't at the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. When he came back the next day, he looked at me with vague guilt in his eyes and he didn't say much. Only Grandpa Qian and I know about the online resources on my side." Listen stopped talking. However, Lin Yuan did not speak after hearing that. Instead, he looked at Listen, wanting him to continue speaking. When Listen saw Lin Yuan's eyes, he understood what he meant and continued speaking. He continued, "After this matter is over, I'll send Grandpa Qian away from the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to Indigo Azure City for retirement. In the future, all the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's matters will have nothing to do with him." As soon as Listen finished speaking, Lin Yuan raised his hand slightly. A platinum phase storage box landed in front of Listen. Lin Yuan said, "There are 1,350 items of different sizes here. Without the online resources, can these items hold on?" Listen picked up the platinum phase storage box, and the fatigue on his face was swept away. Although Listen's eyes were red because he had not slept for the past few days, there was no change in his eyes. At that moment, Listen's eyes were filled with unparalleled confidence. These 1,350 items are equivalent to an investment of 13.5 million radiance dollars, and these items are top-notch resources. If I can't hold on, how can I dare to make a promise to let the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce become a rising faction in 4 months? The corners of Lin Yuan's mouth curled up. Hu Quan found 27 Class 3 Spirit Craftsmen, which is 70 more than the expected 200 items per day. You just have to develop the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce well. I'll solve the problem of military resources for you. Lin Yuan had already started the white-clothed followers plan. Before the spatial tunnel to the Divine Wood Federation was opened, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was the best home for the white-clothed followers. Within 4 months, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce would rely on these items made of completely jade-textured wood powder to advance into a rising faction in its current situation. It was unknown how many pairs of eyes were spying in the dark, and how many hungry wolves wanted to pounce forward and tear apart the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's flesh. He wanted to share the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's feast. At that time, if the turbulent listening Heron Chamber of Commerce did not have the support of king-class combat power, the cold currents mixed with wind and rain would soon blow the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce into pieces. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Listen's eyes lit up and he spoke quickly. If you can guarantee that the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce has enough combat power to support it, then I'm confident in letting the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce hit the threshold of a rising faction within 3 months. Lin Yuan did not respond to Listen. In Lin Yuan's opinion, even with so many resources, it was already extremely difficult for Listen to achieve the transformation into a rising faction within 4 months. In Lin Yuan's opinion, Listen's 3-month period was a little harsh. At that moment, the strange and pleasant voice of the mother of Bloodbath, which had been silent all this while, sounded a little cold. A king-class expert dares to eavesdrop unscrupulously? Does he really think that the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce has no one? Second update, asking for votes, staying up all night writing, so sleepy I only finished typing at 5 in the morning, boohoo. Asking for support. End of this chapter. Chapter 402. The mother of Bloodbath had spoken for a long time, but no one responded. Lin Yuan scanned the empty room with his eyes but didn't find anything. However, Lin Yuan knew that since the mother of Bloodbath had said so, it was destined that a king-class expert was eavesdropping on his conversation with Listen. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath's voice sounded again. However, compared to before, Lin Yuan could clearly hear the strong killing intent in the mother of Bloodbath's words. What? Do you want me to invite you out instead of coming out? All of a sudden, a black figure appeared by the window. A black-robed, white-haired, skinny old man suddenly appeared at the window. He was as abrupt as a bat that suddenly appeared in front of the window at noon. The old man broke the window with a kick, then jumped into the room with a high and mighty look on his face. There was an exceptionally ugly and ferocious-looking insect species Fey lying on each of the old man's shoulders. Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check the attributes of these 2 ugly insect species Feys. Fey name, Mind-Controlling Silkworm Goo, Fey species, Silkworm/Thought Silkworm, Fey grade, Diamond 4 out of 10, Fey type, Dark/Poison, Fey quality, Fantasy 2. Fey name, Blood-Toothed Cricket, Fey species, Wingless Cricket/Toothed Cricket, Fey grade, Diamond 3 out of 10, Fey type, Blood/Poison, Fey quality, Fantasy 3. Lin Yuan looked at the attributes of these 2 insect species Feys and then at the black-robed, white-haired old man. This old man's strength is really not bad. One of the 2 poison species Feys is good at cursing, and the other is good at assassination. At the same time, they are both high-grade fantasy breeds. Among them, the Diamond 4/Fantasy 2 Mind-Controlling Silkworm Goo needed to devour a large number of hearts to enhance the curse effect before casting its curse ability. The Diamond 3/Fantasy 3 Blood-Toothed Cricket was also an insect species Fey that usually needed to drink a lot of blood. Such a combination of insidious insect species Feys showed that this old man was not a good person. Tsk. Little girl, you do have some eyesight to be able to discover this old man's existence. After the old man finished speaking, Lin Yuan cursed inwardly. Although the mother of Bloodbath had an extremely strong foodie attribute in the mansion and was extremely friendly to the people in the mansion, it didn't seem to care about the mother of Bloodbath. However, it was undeniable that the mother of Bloodbath was an insect species Fey. Furthermore, it was a spider Fey, which was the cruelest among the insect species Feys. The law rune that the mother of Bloodbath had mastered was the Blood Law rune. Only by truly understanding the essence of blood could one dare to say that they could see through the rules of blood. Therefore, if the mother of Bloodbath's subordinates did not bleed like a river, how could they master the Blood Law rune? However, this old man actually spoke to the mother of Bloodbath like an old monk hanging himself. The mother of Bloodbath stepped forward with a playful expression on its face. Hee hee, you call me a little girl? The black-robed, white-haired elder had long known that the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce didn't have a king-class expert. Although he didn't know how this strange masked woman with dark patterns of flowing clouds had discovered him, he didn't know what to do. But even if they found out, what could they do? They were just a bunch of trash. The black-robed elder's face was full of mockery. He looked at Lin Yuan, Listen, and the mother of Bloodbath as though they were 3 fun toys. Your ears aren't good at such a young age. Could it be that you're not a little girl but a little sissy in women's clothing? Lin Yuan originally wanted to tell the mother of Bloodbath not to kill so easily. However, since the old man had spoken like this, Lin Yuan couldn't stop the mother of Bloodbath anymore. After all, Dignity had always been the top priority for experts. The old man's words had obviously touched the mother of Bloodbath's bottom line. At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath suddenly laughed. However, that pleasant voice was filled with an extremely evil flavor. The frequency of this laughter was faintly like the hissing of a spider fae when it was hunting for food. The black-robed, white-haired elder felt a chill all over his body for some reason after hearing the mother of Bloodbath's laughter. Goosebumps immediately covered his whole body, and even the age spots on his face were uneven because of the goosebumps. An inexplicable sense of crisis appeared in the elder's heart, and he shouted, "Blood-toothed cricket, kill this woman with the blood-poisoned thorn." The blood-toothed cricket was only the size of half a palm, and its entire body was blood-red. However, its blood-red body was covered with black patches and brownish-green thorns, making it very ugly. The blood-toothed cricket's blood-red body was covered with black patches and brownish-green thorns, making it very ugly. When the blood-toothed cricket heard the old man's instructions, it stomped its powerful hind legs and shot toward the mother of Bloodbath. At the same time, two fangs formed by blood energy formed in front of the mother of Bloodbath. The front end of the fangs formed by blood energy also carried green venom that emitted a dark black light. At that moment, the aura that the mother of Bloodbath had been restraining penetrated through its body and dispersed the blood fangs formed by the blood-toothed cricket's blood-poisoned thorn in one fell swoop. A kind of monarch's aura radiated from the mother of Bloodbath's body. However, this monarch's aura was only controlled by the mother of Bloodbath within the range of this room. At the same time, this monarch's aura emitted a kind of evil coldness. It was as if the bright room had instantly turned into a dark crypt for spiders to hunt. The blood-toothed cricket landed on the ground from mid-air and twitched violently. A blood-red luster flickered on the surface of its body, and a willpower similar to blood suddenly appeared on the blood-toothed cricket's body. Hee, this fantasy breed blood-toothed cricket is really compatible with this blood-poison willpower rune. It's just that it's really interesting to let a fantasy breed insect attack me with a blood ability. As soon as the mother of Bloodbath's voice fell, the blood-poison willpower energy was directly stripped from the blood-toothed cricket's body. It then slowly fused into the mother of Bloodbath's body. The mother of Bloodbath's body rippled with a blood-red luster. With the blood-poison willpower extracted from the blood-toothed cricket's body, it fell from a fantasy breed to a diamond 3/legend fae. The black-robed, white-haired old man suddenly exclaimed, "A suzerain/myth breed fae?" The old man's voice was full of bewilderment and fear, and even his voice was trembling. The mother of Bloodbath stepped toward the blood-toothed cricket that had fallen to the ground and said, "You have some knowledge. You even know about law stripping and system control." When the black-robed old man made the blood-toothed cricket attack the mother of Bloodbath, Listen's heart skipped a beat. This old man was simply too familiar to Listen. This old man was the third leader of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, Fei Chinxiong. Third update asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 403. Fei Chinxiong could definitely be called a veteran king-class expert. As the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's number 3 figure, he had a fierce reputation outside. When the mother of Bloodbath had suddenly erupted with its aura, Listen and Fei Chinxiong were equally shocked. However, Listen's shock was different from Fei Chinxiong's. Fei Chinxiong was in panic and fear, while Listen had a kind of pleasant surprise in his heart. Listen looked at Lin Yuan without a trace and found that he was sitting there calmly. The expression on his face had not changed in the slightest. It was as though the king-class expert's sudden attack just now was just a gust of wind and not worth mentioning. Previously, Listen had only seen Lin Yuan inadvertently reveal his foundation in terms of resources. But now, Fei Chinxiong had only shouted the words suzerain/myth breed Fei. This was enough to prove that Lin Yuan's foundation in terms of martial strength was even deeper than his foundation in terms of resources. Listen shifted his gaze from Lin Yuan to the mother of Bloodbath and the blood-toothed cricket, which was twitching and struggling on the ground. Although Listen had never seen a myth breed Fei using law stripping and system mastery on a fantasy breed Fei, he had heard his grandfather mention it. Law stripping referred to the law rune's willpower within the law it belonged to. It was a means of stripping from a fantasy breed Fei. System mastery referred to the dominance of a superior Fei over an inferior Fei of the same type. Listen did not know what kind of Fei the mother of Bloodbath's body was. However, based on the mother of Bloodbath's ability to strip the blood-toothed cricket's bloodline and system mastery, it could be seen that the mother of Bloodbath must be an insect species suzerain/myth breed Fei that controlled the blood law. Fei Chinxiong clearly felt that he had lost control of the blood-toothed cricket. However, the mind-controlling silkworm goo on his other shoulder was still under his control. Fei Qinxiong vaguely looked at the young man sitting on the sofa without making a sound. At the same time, he glanced at the blood-toothed cricket on the ground, which had its willpower rune removed and had fallen from its fantasy breed status. A trace of madness flashed in Fei Qinxiong's eyes. Fei Qinxiong did not know the identity of the young man sitting on the sofa. However, just by looking at the style of the mask on his face, it could be seen that this young man's identity was obviously higher than this suzerain/myth 2 Fei that had transformed into a human form. At this moment, Fei Qinxiong heard a strange yet pleasant voice ringing in his ears. You've nurtured the blood-toothed cricket well. Even if it has fallen from a fantasy breed, this Diamond 4/Legend blood-toothed cricket is still useful. So destroy your spiritual energy fragment to release the contract and let this blood-toothed cricket become a wild Fei. The mother of bloodbath's tone sounded as if it was talking about something very ordinary. However, these words were like an order to Fei Qinxiong, carrying the weight of 10,000 gold. Although Fei Qinxiong's eyes flashed with madness just now, he was already prepared to not walk out of this room alive. However, after hearing the mother of bloodbath's words, Fei Qinxiong could not help but shudder. What was the difference between destroying the spiritual energy fragment to release the contract with a specific Fei and letting a spirit chi professional die? After a Fei and a spirit chi contractor formed a contract, in a sense it was a lifetime of fetters. However, if a spirit chi professional unilaterally destroyed the spiritual energy fragment in his mind with a specific Fei, it would be equivalent to breaking the previous contract bridge with the specific Fei. It was the same as severing the bridge of the contract with the specific Fei. This would allow the contracted Fei to regain its freedom. However, if a spirit chi professional destroyed the spiritual energy fragment in his mind related to a specific Fei, it would be equivalent to severely injuring his own spiritual source. This kind of spiritual source injury could not be healed, which meant that the spirit chi professional would no longer be able to contract Feis in the future. If it was serious, it might even shake the contract with other Feis that had already been formed. It was not unheard of for a spirit chi professional to destroy the spiritual energy fragment related to a specific Fei and release the contract with the Fei. However, this kind of situation was generally when a spirit chi professional faced a desperate situation and knew that he could not survive. Therefore, he chose to destroy the spiritual energy fragment corresponding to the contracted Fei and let the contracted Fei return to a wild Fei. It was to prevent the Fei from losing its life due to the contract when he died. However, how could Fei Qinxiong be willing to destroy the mental fragment between him and the blood-toothed cricket? Seeing that Fei Qinxiong did not move, the mother of bloodbath stretched out its hand and gently tapped the air. The moment the mother of bloodbath pointed its fingernails turned as red as viscous blood. Fei Qinxiong's miserable howl echoed in the room as the mother of bloodbath pointed its finger. This miserable howl was exceptionally mournful, as if it was suffering the cruelest punishment in the world. However, the miserable howl only lasted for a moment before Fei Qinxiong could no longer howl. His body constantly twisted into a strange arc on the ground. The mother of bloodbath walked in front of Lin Yuan and said, "This old man still has a mind control silkworm goo that he can use. He refused to destroy the mental fragment obediently just now. He must still be thinking of using the mind control silkworm goo to do something bad." With that said, the mother of bloodbath waved its hand and grabbed the chubby reddish-gold mind-controlling silkworm goo. The surface of the mind-controlling silkworm goo's reddish-gold body was very smooth and covered with dark red spots. Every time the mind-controlling silkworm goo used its larvae to place goo in the target's body to control the target's life, a dark red spot would appear on its back. The dark red spots on the mind-controlling silkworm goo in the mother of bloodbath's hand were so dense that they were almost connected. There were at least 1,000 of them. In other words, there were still thousands of people's lives in Fei Qinxiong's hands. As long as Fei Qinxiong wanted those controlled people to die, he only needed to issue an order to the mind-controlling silkworm goo. Those mind-controlling silkworm goo larvae lurking in the target's body would drill into the target's heart. Lin Yuan looked at Fei Qinxiong, who was rolling on the ground with his body twisted into a strange shape, without the slightest pity. If the mother of bloodbath was not stronger than Fei Qinxiong, the mother of bloodbath would have died under the blood-toothed cricket's ability. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce had been targeting the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had always been in a passive position. Lin Yuan could not help but have doubts in his heart. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce was already a rising faction. It was more profitable to do something casually than to target the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Why was the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce still chasing after the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, which only had an empty shell left? Baidu, read the latest chapter of Beast Evolution Merchant Claw Bookhouse for free. Chapter 404. If the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce didn't have a life and death feud with the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce wouldn't be able to survive. Spending so much effort to target the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources was a loss-making deal. Now that the third in command of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce was in front of him, this was obviously a good opportunity to find out the reason. He looked at the Mother of Bloodbath standing beside him. The Mother of Bloodbath was playing with the violently struggling mind-controlling silkworm goo in its hand, exerting strength from time to time. The Mother of Bloodbath watched with interest as the mind-controlling silkworm goo was slowly toyed with until it was half dead. Upon seeing Lin Yuan look at it, the Mother of Bloodbath said, "Don't worry. Right now, this old thing is experiencing the pain of a blade made of blood carving on every bone in his body. There's no way he can resist at all." Upon hearing the Mother of Bloodbath's words, Lin Yuan turned to speak to Listen. "You should have a lot of questions about why the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has been targeting the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, right? There's no harm in asking about it now." Upon hearing that, Listen's expression froze, and he looked at Lin Yuan with gratitude in his eyes. Lin Yuan did not say anything else. He just gently patted Listen's shoulder and gave him an affirmative look. When Listen looked at Fei Qinxiong, Listen's eyes had become extremely sharp, and his face was getting gloomier and gloomier. It could be said that over the past month or so, it was the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's ruthless suppression and fierce offensive that had almost brought the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to the brink of collapse. Without Lin Yuan's support, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce would have completely controlled the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources 3 days later. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce would no longer exist in this world. With Lin Yuan's encouragement and acquiescence, Listen walked up to Fei Qinxiong. Listen had mixed feelings as he looked at Fei Qinxiong, who was struggling under his feet. Listen originally had countless questions he wanted to ask Fei Qinxiong. Ask Fei Qinxiong why the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has been chasing after the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce and forcing it into a dead end. What kind of benefits had the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce given his uncles to make them leave the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce without even saying goodbye? However, all these words were stuck in Listen's throat when he was about to ask them. This was the first time Listen could look down on the people in the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce as a powerhouse. And this person was the third leader of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. Listen wasn't stupid. He knew that the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce must have some ulterior motives for treating his Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce like this in the past month. However, no matter how Listen thought about it, he did not know what he had that was worth the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce thinking about. Listen watched Fei Qinxiong struggle for a long time, watching coldly and not saying a word. When Listen looked down at him, Fei Qinxiong's eyes revealed a pleading emotion. At that moment, Listen said coldly, "Fei Qinxiong, do you have anything to say about the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce?" The intense pain made Fei Qinxiong unable to make a sound, but he still nodded his head like a madman. Fei Qinxiong nodded frantically. A blood-red luster flashed in the Mother of Bloodbath's eyes. A blood-red luster flashed in the Mother of Bloodbath's eyes. Although Fei Qinxiong was still in so much pain that he couldn't stand up, he could barely suppress the pain and speak. "I don't know why the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce is targeting you. I'm also listening to the orders of the two brothers, Bai Qinghu and Bai Qingxiong." Fei Qinxiong had just finished speaking when he heard a strange and pleasant voice say playfully, "Hee, listening to orders? It seems that you're just a minion who listens to orders. In this case, it's useless to keep you. The taste of the blood carving on every bone just now seems to be too light. You might as well try." Before the Mother of Bloodbath could finish speaking, Fei Qinxiong's last trace of mental defense collapsed. "His young Master Zheng. The Zheng family's young Master Zheng has been making arrangements behind the scenes." Listen subconsciously asked when he suddenly heard young Master Zheng. "Indigo Azure City's Zheng family?" Fei Qinxiong hurriedly nodded. Now that he had already spat out, he had no more worries. "Although I don't know why young Master Zheng wants to attack the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, this order was issued a month and a half ago. Don't you know what your Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is being targeted in Indigo Azure City?" Fei Qinxiong felt a little wronged as he spoke. Upon hearing that, Listen's brows furrowed tightly. Lin Yuan could not help but raise his brows. "Young Master Zheng? The Zheng family?" During this time, Lin Yuan had also crammed in information about the Radiance Federation's large and small factions. However, Lin Yuan had only crammed in on the larger factions. There were too many small factions and he had not had time to start flipping through the information. There was simply too much information about the small factions. Lin Yuan planned to let Genius memorize the information of those small factions. This was no different from Lin Yuan understanding the information of these small factions. Although Lin Yuan had only flipped through the information of the larger factions, however, Lin Yuan knew about the Zheng family. The Zheng family was one of the three major aristocratic families of Indigo Azure City. The three major aristocratic families of Indigo Azure City were equally divided, and their strength could be said to be evenly matched. The Zheng family was a thoroughly wealthy family and a veteran faction with a deep foundation. In terms of martial strength, all the veteran factions had emperor-class experts. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not have an advantage compared to the Zheng family in terms of top combat power. Apart from Endless Summer and the Mother of Bloodbath, which were the top combat power, Lin Yuan had almost no other combat power in his hands. Take the King-class expert for example. Lin Yuan currently only had one King-class expert in his hands. That was Hu Quan. However, Hu Quan was only adept at the Spirit Craftsman aspect. The contracted phase were also to support the Spirit Craftsman ability. Hu Quan might not even be able to beat Lu Jie in a fight. It could be said that he was still very weak in terms of King-class combat power. It could even be said that there was no such thing. In terms of resources, the Zheng family could be said to be a family in Indigo Azure City. Although it was inferior to the Gao family that Gao Feng was from, the Zheng family was a family that could be considered a third of the world in Indigo Azure City. However, when Lin Yuan thought about how the Gao family was able to provide resources like the island whale and the elemental shellfish, the analogy was feasible and he knew the Zheng family's foundation in terms of resources. Lin Yuan did not expect that taking over the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce would cause such a big trouble. However, Fei Qinxiong said that young Master Zheng of the Zheng family was the one making the arrangements, not the Zheng family. The Zheng family was different from the Gao family. The Gao family only had Gao Feng as their only heir. It could be said that in a few decades, Gao Feng would have absolute power in the Gao family. However, the Zheng family had a large population. Among the younger generation of the Zheng family, there were 9 people who could be called young Master Zheng, and only 3 of them were direct descendants. Begging for monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 405. In any wealthy family, one's background was extremely important. The words of a direct descendant could represent the family. However, the words of a branch descendant could only represent himself. Fei Qinxiong, is this young Master Zheng you mentioned a direct descendant of Indigo Azure City's Zheng family? Lin Yuan's clear voice sounded in Fei Qinxiong's ears, and he did not dare to be the slightest bit negligent. However, Fei Qinxiong was a little troubled by Lin Yuan's question. Young Master, only the 2 brothers Bai Qinghu and Bai Qingxiong have seen young Master Zheng. I've never seen what he looks like at all, so whether he's a direct descendant of the Zheng family or not. Fei Qinxiong knew that the young man who was asking him was the most important person in this room. When the mind-controlling silkworm goo was still under Fei Qinxiong's control, crazy thoughts flashed in his mind. However, the blood-toothed cricket was struggling on the ground and was not under his control at all. The mind-controlling silkworm goo was also half dead in the hands of that suzerain/myth breed humanoid Fei. Even if Fei Qinxiong wanted to go crazy now, he did not have the ability to do so. It was only a split-second decision for a person to not be afraid of death, but when this decision was made and faced with the line between life and death, almost everyone would change their decision and become afraid of death. Almost everyone would change their mind and become afraid of death, and Fei Qinxiong was no exception. What Fei Qinxiong wanted the most now was to be able to live. After hearing Fei Qinxiong's words, Lin Yuan pondered. When he looked up, he happened to see Lisan's eyes looking at him. He was obviously waiting for him to make a decision. Lin Yuan knew what Lisan was thinking. Presumably, when facing a veteran faction, most people would not hesitate to abandon an empty shelf like the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. At that moment, Lisan was like a deer that had just found its direction in despair. However, this deer was worried that the direction he was looking for would regard him as a burden and abandon him. Just when Lisan felt that the air was getting thinner and that the air in his lungs was faintly stuffy, Lin Yuan waved his hand and threw something over. Lisan hurriedly went to catch it. When he held it in his hand, he felt that it was warm. At a glance, he realized that it was a wooden sign made of completely jade-textured chicken wing wood with the word Quan engraved on it. At that moment, Lisan heard Lin Yuan say, In the future, I won't be giving you those objects mixed with completely jade-textured wood powder. Just take this plate and set a time every day to pick them up at the Spirit Craftsman Association. Listen held the tablet in his hand tightly. This wooden block's words indicated Lin Yuan's attitude toward himself and the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Fei Qinxiong suddenly held his breath. Fei Qinxiong could sense from this masked youth's words that he hadn't given up on supporting the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce because of young Master Zheng. This at least showed that the masked young man was not afraid of young Master Zheng. People with high emotional intelligence like Listen were rarely emotional. However, after hearing Lin Yuan's words, Listen calmed down for a long time before whispering, "Okay." After deliberating for a moment, Listen spoke. The only thing left of the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce in Indigo Azure City is an empty old house and a coastal sea with huge waves. Could it be that the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce is targeting this shallow coastal sea? Although this sea area is on the coast, the water level is extremely deep, and there are great dangers in this shallow sea. Listen's heart sank at the mention of this shallow sea. It was this shallow sea that had left the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's core member. Lin Yuan listened to Listen's words and felt that his guess was more reasonable. The listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was now completely an empty shelf, and it would be a waste of effort for the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce to occupy it. Moreover, it was a behemoth like the Zheng family. The only thing left of the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce that could be called a resource was this shallow sea area. Thus, it was destined that only this shallow sea area might be something that the Zheng family coveted. Lin Yuan could not help but be a little interested in something that even the Zheng family coveted. Before the dimensional rift becomes active, I'll follow you to Indigo Azure City to explore this shallow sea area. Lin Yuan's contracted Red Thorn's ability to breathe underwater had not completely mutated. However, there was no problem for Red Thorn to survive in the water. He could not test how strong Red Thorn's ability to breathe underwater was in the Manor's artificial lake. He could take this opportunity to explore the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's shallow sea area and test the limit of Red Thorn's underwater breathing. The last thing Listen wanted to face was the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's coastal sea in Indigo Azure City. However, upon hearing that Lin Yuan wanted to explore, Listen hurriedly said, "That's right. Young master, you can call me whenever you have time." At this moment, Fei Qinxiong's face was getting paler and paler. The more Fei Qinxiong listened to the masked youth and Listen's unbridled conversation, the more he knew. Either it meant that the two of them weren't talking about anything important, and it didn't matter if an outsider like him was present, but how could the content of this conversation be insignificant when it involved the Zheng family? In other words, the masked young man was not afraid that he would hear the secret. This meant that in the eyes of others he was already a dead man. Because only a dead man's mouth could be the tightest. Fei Qinxiong hurriedly crawled 2 steps forward and said with difficulty, "I've already told you everything I know. Can you please let me go? I can swear on the willpower rune to pledge allegiance to you." At that moment, the mother of Bloodbath's strange yet pleasant voice rang in Fei Qinxiong's ears. This strange yet pleasant voice was filled with the taste of foolishness. "Oh, you even used a willpower rune to make an oath. That blood poison willpower rune tastes pretty good. It's a pity that the mind-controlling Silkworm Goo's willpower rune is of the dark attribute. Otherwise I would be able to taste it again." The mother of Bloodbath's words caused Fei Qinxiong's body to tremble. "I can swear on the willpower rune to become a servant, and I haven't killed anyone from the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce." When Fei Qinxiong said this, he couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. He hadn't killed anyone from the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, but he had kidnapped the son and grandson of the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's steward, Qianda. He then used the mind-controlling Silkworm Goo to control Qianda's son before exchanging for the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's online resources. It could be said that he was the culprit who had caused the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to lose online resources. Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows. Taking in Fei Qinxiong could be considered a good thing for Lin Yuan at present. This was because Lin Yuan didn't have any available king-class experts. Even if Fei Qinxiong's blood-toothed cricket had fallen from a fantasy breed to a Diamond 4/Legend Fei, its combat power was still high. Moreover, Fei Qinxiong's Diamond 2/Fantasy 2 mind-controlling Silkworm Goo was still there. However, Fei Qinxiong had been a member of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce and could be considered Listen's mortal enemy. Since Lin Yuan had taken in the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce first, he didn't directly respond to Fei Qinxiong's pledge of allegiance. Instead, he spoke to Listen, who was standing beside him. "The listening Heron Chamber of Commerce doesn't have any king-class experts now. Since Fei Qinxiong wants to pledge allegiance, keep him if you want. If not, kill him. Lin Yuan's words were light, but he was considering listen in his heart. Seeking monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 406. It was easy to see a person's pattern from how they dealt with a matter. Usually, how big a person's vision was would determine how big a stall he could manage and how big a scene he could plan. As the saying goes, a person with a high level of vision must have the magnanimity to tolerate others. If Listen had a high level of vision, he would have accepted Fei Qinxiong. Whether Listen let Fei Qinxiong live or die, it would not change Lin Yuan's current attitude toward Listen. However, the higher Listen's level was, the more Lin Yuan would be willing to tilt more of his resources to Listen's operation. He even allowed Listen to carry out more comprehensive management of the external resources that Sky City controlled. When Fei Qinxiong heard Lin Yuan's words, an abnormal fear arose in his heart, and his body trembled like a sieve. Fei Qinxiong had always felt that he was a king-class expert. As long as he was willing to swear allegiance with the willpower rune, it should not be a problem for him to exchange his strength for a way out. However, this masked youth had casually thrown his life and death to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's Listen. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce had caused the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce to become like this. If he were Listen, how could he let himself live? Listen had not expected that Fei Qinxiong's life would actually be thrown into his hands by Lin Yuan. Listen understood the ways of the world and could understand that Lin Yuan had not accepted Fei Qinxiong's allegiance because he was concerned about his feelings. Otherwise, a king-class expert would willingly become a servant. But that was equivalent to giving up everything he had. Such benefits were delivered to his doorstep, but Lin Yuan did not accept them. Listen had sworn to rely on Lin Yuan with the willpower rune mainly to find a way out for himself and the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. However, Listen now had a deep sense of belonging to Lin Yuan. Listen looked at Fei Qinxiong and narrowed his eyes. However, before Fei Qinxiong could despair, Listen turned to Lin Yuan and said firmly, "I'm willing to take Fei Qinxiong. Fei Qinxiong is more valuable alive than dead." Lin Yuan was a little surprised by Listen's quick choice. This showed that Listen did not care about hatred at all and had always regarded Fei Qinxiong as a valuable counterweight. Such a setup could not be said to be small. Lin Yuan nodded. In that case, the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce will have a king-class expert station from today onward. Lying on the ground, Fei Qinxiong, who was originally in a state of despair, felt that his emotions had flipped too quickly, and his brain wasn't enough to process it. Listen looked at Fei Qinxiong and enunciated each word clearly. "If you can contribute to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce in the future, I won't treat you poorly because of what you've done before." Listen's words caused Fei Qinxiong, who was in turmoil, to immediately feel that the relationship between him and Listen had become much closer. After Fei Qinxiong used the willpower rune to swear to be Listen's servant, he officially became Listen's servant. He was also Lin Yuan's faction's first true combat class king-class expert. Lin Yuan stood up from the sofa and spoke. "Do you want to keep Fei Qinxiong in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, or do you want him to return to the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce as a spy? It's up to you." After saying that, he took out an ethereal jellyfish's tentacle and set up a spatial node here. Lin Yuan and the Mother of Bloodbath then left the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Listen's mind raced as he thought about his future plans. He was calculating the 270 items made of completely jade-textured wood powder that Lin Yuan would pour into him every day. That was equivalent to a capital injection of 2.7 million radiance dollars. In 3 months, it would be a total of 243 million radiance dollars. Fei Qinxiong stood respectfully beside Listen. A ridiculous feeling arose in his heart. He did not expect that in just an hour his life would change. He had even walked through the gates of hell. Fei Qinxiong stood beside Listen, but he did not know that Listen was already thinking. How could he rely on his spy and 243 million radiance dollars to devour the entire Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce within 3 months? "Big brother, why hasn't Elder Fei come back yet? That old thing, Elder Fei, actually made us 2 brothers wait for him here." The older middle-aged man, by Qinghu, had a face as black as the bottom of a pot as he spoke resentfully. "Will you starve to death if you eat a little later? When will you get rid of your bad habit of dragging people along? Think about what you should and shouldn't say when you have nothing better to do." The bearded middle-aged man, by Qingxiong, subconsciously raised the wine glass in his hand and said, "Big brother, I was wrong. I'll fuck you up." By Qinghu's face that was as black as the bottom of a pot suddenly turned red, and he couldn't help but rub his temples. He felt the fire in his heart surging up, making his head swell. At this time Bai Qingxiong saw Fei Qianxiong walking in, so he shouted at the top of his lungs. "Elder Fei, why did you take so long for such a small matter?" Fei Qianxiong was angered by Bai Qingxiong's words. "What do you mean by such a small matter? Damn it, such a small matter almost took the life of my old bones." Bai Qinghu stood up and glared fiercely at Bai Qingxiong. Then he went up and said, "Old Fei, you've worked hard. Come, have a taste of the dragon tiger blood tendon wine that I specially prepared." Bai Qinghu enthusiastically pulled Fei Qianxiong to his seat. Bai Qingxiong talked non-stop while he ate his meal. When Fei Qianxiong was eating, he spoke to Bai Qinghu as usual, but his heart was very complicated. When he had been eating at the banquet, he had still been sitting firmly in the third seat of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, but he had now become a mole of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Fei Qianxiong had already sworn with the willpower rune to become Listen's servant, so he had no other choice. As long as he violated the oath, only death awaited him. At the same time, Fei Qianxiong had to do his best not to be seen through by anyone in the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. To Fei Qianxiong, his biggest flaw now was that the blood-toothed cricket had fallen from a fantasy breed. If Bai Qingxiong found out, he might not think too much about it. However, if the old fox Bai Qinghu discovered it, he would definitely be on guard against him. In that case, it would not be easy for him to do some things when he wanted to become an insider. If he was exposed, not only would Bai Qinghu and Bai Qingxiong not let him off, but he would also be punished. Young Master Zheng of the Zheng family would also kill him. Fei Qianxiong felt bitter in his heart. But at the same time, Fei Qianxiong also knew that it was time to perform his real acting skills. Fei Qianxiong remembered the task that Listen had given him and said to Bai Qinghu while drinking, "Qinghu, our Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has too many unprofitable online and offline resources. Qinghu, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has too many online and offline resources that are not profitable. Why don't we sell some of them and turn to high-end luxury items? That way we can make a profit." Chapter 3, Seeking Monthly Votes and Recommendation Votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 407. Fei Qianxiong's words made Bai Qinghu ponder. He was obviously considering the feasibility of Fei Qianxiong's suggestion. However, Bai Qinghu looked at Fei Qianxiong with a strange gaze. Bai Qingxiong was stuffing meat into his mouth when he heard Fei Qianxiong's words. "Elder Fei, since when did you start caring about the operations of the Chamber of Commerce? When I asked you to manage the operations of the Chamber of Commerce, didn't you say that you only like to fight and kill without using your brain?" Fei Qianxiong felt a little bitter in his heart. This Bai Qingxiong had a bear's brain, and he could easily find a reason to justify himself. But Bai Qinghu was not so easy to fool. Fei Qianxiong couldn't be bothered to deal with the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce before because Bai Qinghu's desire for control was too strong. Another reason was that Fei Qianxiong was more willing to improve his strength if he had the time. Instead of focusing on the operations of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, Fei Qianxiong knew that it was a bit abrupt for him to raise the issue of the Chamber of Commerce's development. However, this was the task that Listen had given him, and it was also Fei Qianxiong's first step as an insider. Therefore, Fei Qianxiong had to say whatever he wanted to say. Fei Qianxiong couldn't be bothered with Bai Qingxiong's attitude. When Fei Qianxiong looked at Bai Qinghu, he realized that Bai Qinghu was looking at him with a scrutinizing gaze. Fei Qianxiong took a deep breath and brought himself a glass of wine. When Fei Qianxiong held the wine glass, he was brewing his emotions. After drinking the wine in one gulp, Fei Qianxiong turned his head and looked at Bai Qinghu seriously. Even if Bai Qinghu was shrewd, he was still caught unprepared by Fei Qianxiong's next move. Bai Qinghu never thought that Fei Qianxiong's eyes would actually turn red. Fei Qianxiong wasn't good at acting. The reason why he revealed his true feelings was because he was not an actor. It was because Fei Qianxiong had thought about how his blood-toothed cricket had been deprived of its willpower rune. The more he thought about it, the more aggrieved he felt. In less than 5 seconds, a few drops of tears flowed from his eyes. The more Fei Qianxiong thought about it, the sadder the blood-toothed cricket became. Fei Qianxiong said, taking advantage of this sadness, "Qinghu, I've been with you for a few years now. Although I'm a few decades older than you, to tell you the truth, I've always treated you as a brother. The past few years in the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce have been the happiest years of my life. Now that the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has been promoted to a rising faction, I thought that Qingxiong wouldn't be able to help you much. You'll have to take care of everything yourself. Now I'm also thinking that I can try to help you with some tasks that don't require much thought." Bai Qinghu was caught off guard when he saw Fei Qianxiong's red eyes. But then Bai Qinghu calmed down. Bai Qinghu was very wary and had never treated Fei Qianxiong as one of his own. He had never allowed Fei Qianxiong to interfere with the core operations of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. Even when Fei Qianxiong hinted many times that he wanted to meet young Master Zheng together, Bai Qinghu rejected him on the grounds that young Master Zheng didn't like to meet outsiders. It was because Bai Qinghu wanted to completely control Fei Qianxiong and use him as a sharp weapon for the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. Otherwise, if Fei Qianxiong climbed up the Zheng family behind his back and relied on young Master Zheng to develop in the Zheng family, then his Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce would lose a sharp weapon. Bai Qinghu could see that Fei Qianxiong's tears were not fake. If they were fake, a few drops would dry up. He definitely wouldn't have kept it like this. Bai Qinghu was a little surprised that Fei Qianxiong actually valued him so much. Looking at his younger brother, Bai Qingxiong, who was eating and drinking to his heart's content, Bai Qinghu felt that Fei Qianxiong's old bones were becoming more and more pleasing to the eye. It was just that Bai Qinghu felt a little strange to suddenly have a brother with white hair and beard. After some consideration, Bai Qinghu felt that Fei Qianxiong's proposal made sense. Although the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce had become a rising faction, it had yet to open a private faction territory on Star Web. There was also no clear direction for the operation of the private force. At present, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce still had a lot of heavy basic spiritual materials and ordinary phase online and offline resources. Online and offline resources for ordinary spirit materials were fine. Even if they needed a lot of manpower, they could still bring a certain amount of stable income to the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce every day. However, the online and offline resources for ordinary phase were different. Normal phase online and offline resources didn't just need manpower to take care of them. It also needed to be fed at a fixed time every day and had to bear the risk of ordinary phase dying. Dead ordinary phase didn't have any valuable spiritual ingredients and could only be used as meat to feed other phase. This kind of online and offline resources was already dispensable for the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. Even though these ordinary phase online and offline resources could help the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce filter out many mutated phase high-quality resources every year, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce didn't have many mutated phase. However, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce could only resell these mutated phase high-quality resources. It was true that the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce would benefit from the Zheng family. However, the Zheng family strictly controlled the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's creation master resources, leaving the entire Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce without any creation master. As a result, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce could only rely on the Zheng family. At the same time, the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce did not have much use for these mutated phase. Bai Qinghu looked at Fei Qianxiong pouring wine for him and thought that he might as well give Fei Qianxiong a chance. So Bai Qinghu said, "Elder Fei, don't touch the online and offline resources for the ordinary spirit materials. I'll leave the online and offline resources for the ordinary spirit beasts to you." Fei Qianxiong hurriedly toasted Bai Qinghu and said, "Qinghu, in terms of resources for high-end luxury items, what do you think?" Bai Qinghu refused directly without thinking. "I'll think of a way to deal with this." Bai Qinghu's heart, which had been a little touched before, suddenly became as hard as stone. He looked at Fei Qianxiong again and immediately became vigilant. The Zheng family's main business direction was high-end luxury items. Bai Qinghu could not help but think, is Fei Qianxiong thinking of letting me give him a chance to get close to young Master Zheng? Bai Qinghu had already made up his mind to let Fei Qianxiong help him take over more of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's matters in the future. However, he had to keep a close eye on Fei Qianxiong and not give him any chance to get on young Master Zheng's ship. Fei Qianxiong secretly let out a breath and thought to himself, the task assigned by Listen is considered completed. Fei Qianxiong recalled how Bai Qinghu's gaze had changed from scrutinizing to intimate to defensive, and he only felt abnormally excited. For some reason, Fei Qianxiong suddenly felt that acting seemed more exciting than using the mind-controlling silkworm goo to control people's hearts. At the same time, he could not help but curse Bai Qinghu in his heart. "My big neck is wet from crying and I cried so sincerely. I didn't even cry so sadly when my wife died. You're still on guard against me. See if I don't screw you over." First update. Asking for monthly votes. Asking for complete subscriptions. End of this chapter. Chapter 408. In the study room on the second floor of the Return from Faraway Manarch. There was a huge wooden shelf on each side of the wall, and each small compartment on the shelf had a stack of information about each faction. During this time, when you had only sorted out a small part of the information about the veteran factions. This small part of the information filled half of the shelf. Obviously, these two shelves were not enough to sort out all the information about these large and small factions. Young Master, one of the Zheng family's 3 direct descendants, is a member of the Radiance 100 sequence. He has been busy with the S tournament for more than a month. This Zheng family's direct descendant has established a guild club and is fighting for the B-class guild club qualification this year. According to the S tournament's tight schedule, there shouldn't be time to arrange for the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce to deal with the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's plan. One of the other 2 direct descendants was born with a serious illness, causing his legs to atrophy and making him unable to walk. Thus, he has been recuperating in Indigo Azure City. The 3rd direct descendant is a creation master. The Zheng family has poured a lot of resources into nurturing his abilities as a creation master. Presumably, the Zheng family will not let a creation master who is being nurtured waste time on such a small matter like the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Lin Yuan did not expect that he had just come to ask Wen Yu's opinion on the Zheng family's situation. Wen Yu had actually grasped such detailed information about the Zheng family without missing a single trace. Lin Yuan wondered if there was a genius living in Wen Yu's head. At that moment, Wen Yu suddenly thought of something and said, "The Zheng family's 3rd lineage has been buying Indigo Azure City's coastal resources in large quantities since 5 years ago. But for so many years, the Zheng family's 3rd lineage has been occupying more and more coastal resources, but it has never started to develop these coastal resources. If the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce has an offshore coastal resource in Indigo Azure City, it should be blocking the way of the Zheng family's 3rd lineage." Lin Yuan could not help but ask when he heard Wen Yu mention the Zheng family's 3rd lineage. What's the difference between the Zheng family's 3rd lineage and the Zheng family? Wen Yu explained upon hearing that. The Zheng family is prosperous and the main family is the direct descendant. The main family is divided into 4 lineages, and each lineage is a branch of the main family. The main family will selectively inject resources into the 4 bloodlines according to their development. In a sense, the main family is the real Zheng family. In terms of status, although the direct descendants of the main family and the concubines of the 4 bloodlines are all the young masters and mistresses of the Zheng family, the direct descendants have absolute authority over the descendants of the 4 bloodlines. Lin Yuan nodded thoughtfully and said, "Yes. Since the main family of the Zheng family would selectively pour resources into the 4 bloodlines, the relationship between the 4 bloodlines shouldn't be too good." Wen Yu said with a smile. The 4 lineages of the Zheng family don't fight openly, but they fight constantly in the dark. Since the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's matter is related to the Zheng family's 3rd lineage, then the 1st, 2nd, and 4th lineages should not have participated in this matter. After chatting with Wen Yu for a while, he returned to his room. Lin Yuan had only asked Wen Yu about the Zheng family to have an accurate understanding of possible enemies in the future. Lin Yuan had yet to have a clear conflict with the Zheng family. However, if the Zheng clan were to make a move against him, then he would have to deal with it. Lin Yuan thought for a moment and looked for Endless Summer. He asked Endless Summer to go to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce and secretly stay for a period of time. He had poured resources into the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce was destined to be unable to bite off the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. Since the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce could not bite off the Zheng family's 3rd lineage's goal would not be achieved. Even a rabbit would bite when it was anxious, let alone a berserk lion. After making the arrangements, Lin Yuan logged onto Star Web to harvest the gains from the blind trade of the flower brocade pearls. Lin Yuan found that the number of mid-grade strange flames he had obtained through the blind trade this time was significantly higher than the number he had obtained through the first blind trade. This time, Lin Yuan had exchanged 10 flower brocade pearls for a total of 127 mid-grade strange flames. This was 27 more than the last time he had exchanged for 100. Lin Yuan's amber button-shaped diamond face storage box now contained 30 flower brocade pearls that he had exchanged through the blind trade. He still had 170 flower brocade pearls in stock. The next batch of flower brocade pearls would mature again in the Spirit Lock spatial zone after a dozen days. Lin Yuan had not chosen to use the flower brocade pearls in his hands to exchange for resources with other factions. On the one hand, it was because Lin Yuan did not have any urgent material needs at the moment. On the other hand, Lin Yuan also wanted to use time to build up his purchase with No Loss Store's golden signboard. As long as people thought of the flower brocade pearls, they would think of his purchase with No Loss Store. Lin Yuan first checked his Star Web Store's fan club. He found that through the accumulation of 3 blind trades, the number of creation masters in his Star Web Store's fan club had almost reached half of all members. Moreover, the lowest among these creation masters was a Class 3 creation master. In the past, Lin Yuan had never spoken in his fan club. But this time he took the initiative to send a message in his fan club. Deep Mountain Elder Lin, Group Welfare. 30 flower brocade pearls for sale in a package. The highest bidder will get it. Limited to group members. When Lin Yuan's message was sent, the Purchase with No Loss Store's fan club, which was already very active, immediately burst into an uproar. Stream in the cloud, fuck? The group owner actually came back to life. Violent-tempered woman. Congratulations to the group owner for saying the first sentence after creating the group. Unlocked the I'm Not a Mute achievement. Fanji, 30 flower brocade pearls? The benefits of this group were too amazing. Jealous me, so many flower brocade pearls are enough for me to use for a few years. Everyone please take it easy and give me a chance. Time to take medicine. Being addressed as a big shot by a Class 4 creation master is really fucking exciting. Qing Wanhua, Group Leader, what's the exchange rate for spiritual materials? If it was the market price, then it would be too much of a loss to exchange the rare spiritual materials. When Lin Yuan saw Qing Wanhua's message, he pondered for a moment and said, yes. The price of the rare spirit materials will be 2% higher than the rare life form pavilion's transaction price. If the rare life form pavilion doesn't have a transaction price, then I'm sure that none of you will take them out to exchange for this flower brocade pearl. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's answer, Lin Yuan nodded. Qing Wanhua, 2%? The group leader was very generous. Rare spirit materials were not cheap. Although 2% seemed to be a small amount. However, if he took out 10 million radiance dollars worth of rare spiritual ingredients to trade, he would be able to save over 100,000 radiance dollars. In any case, these rare spirit materials were all auctioned in the rare life form pavilion. He would be able to collect them in a year and a half. Over 100,000 radiance dollars were not considered a small amount. Lin Yuan noticed that Listen was chatting in the group, so he immediately at him. Second update, Button wishes everyone a happy new year, hehe. End of this chapter. Chapter 409. Deep Mountain Elder Lin. Listen, help me count the bids given by the people in the group and tell me the highest bid. After saying that, Lin Yuan lurked again. The reason why Lin Yuan would listen was very simple. It was because Lin Yuan usually did not have time to manage the Purchase with No Loss Store's fan club. Listen was extremely active in the fan club and had excellent members. In addition, Listen was one of his own, so Lin Yuan intended to use this matter to establish Listen's prestige and status in his fan club. In the future, he would let Listen help maintain the Purchase with No Loss Store's fan club a little. Currently, the Purchase with No Loss Store's fan club was rather harmonious. However, as the number of people slowly increased, it was inevitable that some discordant tones would be produced. When encountering these discordant tones, someone needed to adjust or forcibly manage them. Listen's talent was clearly suitable to take on this job. In fact, this was also Lin Yuan giving Listen a chance. This would allow Listen to take this opportunity to use the resources of his Purchase with No Loss Store as much as possible. He could let the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce borrow a few wisps of upward wind. After Lin Yuan closed the list of the Star Web Store's fan club, he took out 10 flower brocade pearls and placed them on display in his Star Web Store. At the same time, he set up a blind trade for these flower brocade pearls one day later. The 30 flower brocade pearls that Lin Yuan had previously released in the fan club was just the first bait that he had thrown out. This bait could attract more attention while also making more factions and high-class creation masters eager to join his fan club. It also allowed more factions and high-class creation masters that needed a large number of flower brocade pearls to urgently join their fan club. One was to buy these 10 flower brocade pearls through blind trade to obtain the qualifications to enter the fan club. The other way was to snatch those silver usnias that were sold in limited quantities in his Star Web Store. The other way was to snatch those silver usnias that were sold in limited quantities in his Star Web Store. However, Lin Yuan had suspended the sale of the silver usnias in his Star Web Store. This way, those who wanted to enter his Star Web Store's fan club could only compete for the 10 flower brocade pearls through blind trade. The news on Star Web spread very quickly, and the news in the store's fan club was probably already in an uproar. The one day he had set aside was enough for those factions and creation masters who wanted to obtain a large number of flower brocade pearls to prepare. He intended to see how many unexpected gains he could obtain from the blind trade of these 10 flower brocade pearls. After the blind trade, Chimey should have enough mid-grade strange flames to advance from Fantasy 2 to Fantasy 3. The purpose of tossing was to attract the jade. Moreover, Lin Yuan had thrown out a real gold brick. Lin Yuan believed that the profit from this brick he had thrown out would not be small. Furthermore, if the profit from this brick was too small, Listen would probably become the buyer of this brick. Then he clicked on the exchange message he had sent in the Star Web store and checked the information he had received. Lin Yuan realized that he had received a lot of information. However, a large portion of the information was about what kind of resources he could invest and what kind of future he could provide. There were even people who scolded him for being retarded, saying that he had sent this message purely to show off. This made Lin Yuan rather speechless. At the same time, based on the feedback he had gotten from this exchange message, Lin Yuan knew that his purchase with No Lost Stores Foundation was being looked down upon. Otherwise, people would not have said that he had sent this exchange message to show off. However, Lin Yuan did not feel any disappointment. On the contrary, these 30 flower brocade pearls were auctioned as group welfare, including some of Lin Yuan's future plans. Lin Yuan believed that there would definitely be more king-class experts rushing to join his private faction in the future. After screening, Lin Yuan found that only 3 king-class experts had sent his personal information. Among these 3 king-class experts, only one of them met Lin Yuan's requirements. Among the remaining 2, one of them had only comprehended 2 willpower runes, and his main fei was very weak. Even if such a king-class expert obtained Lin Yuan's high-quality bronze fei resources, he would still be a weak existence among the many king-class experts. Even if such a king-class expert received Lin Yuan's high-quality bronze fei resources, he would still be a weak existence among the many king-class experts. In a battle, a king-class expert would need at least 2 stronger main feis to cooperate to be able to exert sufficient strength. Therefore, Lin Yuan had filtered out this king-class expert. The other king-class expert's main fei was extremely strong, and he had 2 power offense-type feis at the same time. In terms of strength, he was not much different from Fei Qianxiong at his peak. However, this king-class expert had put forward his own request in the message. It stated that he needed a bronze/epic lizard species fei. Lin Yuan could easily fulfill such a request. Therefore, Lin Yuan sent a message to these 2 king-class experts at the same time, agreeing to meet in his Star Web store at 10 a.m. tomorrow. After sending the message, Lin Yuan went to the Rare Life Form Pavilion, thinking of buying a lizard species fei that was superior in all aspects. This was the request of the king-class expert who had 2 stronger main feis and was comparable to Fei Qianxiong. Lin Yuan needed to prepare in advance before making an appointment with him. This could show Lin Yuan's sincerity and also give this king-class expert a kind of guarantee. After searching in the Rare Life Form Pavilion, Lin Yuan found a lizard species fei that had awakened a trace of dragon species fei bloodline when it was at elite. Lin Yuan immediately bought this lizard species fei with the dragon species bloodline. He was prepared to enhance this lizard species fei with the dragon species bloodline before the appointment tomorrow. Young Master Zheng, Master just sent a message saying that our 3rd lineage has obtained the main family's 2nd young master's support to develop offshore resources. An old man with a hunched back that was almost bent into a right angle leaned on a walking stick and lowered his voice to speak to the sinister-looking youth at the side. When the sinister-looking youth heard that, his face immediately revealed an ecstatic expression. Our 3rd lineage used 3 years and finally obtained the main family's 2nd young master's support. This is a good opportunity for our 3rd lineage to surpass the 2nd lineage, 4th lineage and 1st lineage. There must not be the slightest mistake. Speaking up to this point, the sinister look in the young man's eyes instantly turned into ruthlessness. Since father's side is ready, I don't have time to let the Iron Wall Association and the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce slowly waste time. Elder Nyo, make a trip tonight and let the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's manager become the dark-eyed scorpion tiger's food. Begging for monthly votes, begging for recommendation votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 410. The hunchbacked old man replied immediately after hearing the sinister-looking young man's words. Young master, I will do it immediately. After old Nyo finished speaking, he thought for a moment and lightly tapped the ground with the cane in his hand a few times. Young master, I heard that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's manager, Listen, has extraordinary talent. I wonder if young master wants to accept Listen as your subordinate? If young master is willing to reveal your identity to Listen, as long as Listen isn't stupid and knows how to adapt to circumstances, he definitely won't reject young Master Zheng's recruitment. The sinister-looking young man, young Master Zheng, was admiring the boundless night outside the window. Upon hearing Elder Nyo's words, he raised his hand and said without even turning his head, "This matter involves the plans of my Zheng family's third lineage. Even if the person in charge of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is a genius, it's not worth me revealing my identity. Moreover, the person in charge of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is just an ant resisting with an empty shell." After Elder Nyo heard the sinister-looking young man's words, he stopped talking and walked out of the room directly. With a wave of his hand, he summoned a black shadow and disappeared into the night with the black shadow. The sinister-looking youth's eyes were filled with joy. He was obviously in a good mood as he muttered to himself, "I don't know what father sacrificed to gain the support of the main house's second young master. Now that we have the second young master's relationship, our third bloodline can finally be considered to have a legitimate reason to develop the coastal resources." In the Ascending Dragon City under the same night sky, the night was waning. At the entrance of the Ascending Dragon City's Creation Master Association, a woman wearing a Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest spoke impolitely. "My teacher said that if your iron bone iguana wants its bloodline to evolve, it is impossible to succeed by relying on the spiritual materials you brought to induce the dragon species bloodline. At the very least, you need a gold dragon's mouth orchid flower." The man standing opposite the woman had an obvious look of disappointment on his face. But soon after, the man's expression returned to normal and he said, "Thank you, Master Duanli, for being willing to help nurture my iron bone iguana. If I can find a gold dragon's mouth orchid flower, I will come to ask Master Duanli to enhance my fey." The woman wearing the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest replied after hearing the man's words, "My master said that he received your payment before, but because you didn't prepare enough spiritual materials, he didn't strengthen your iron bone iguana bloodline. So, the next time you come to teacher said that you only need to prepare half of the previous payment." The man smiled bitterly and thought to himself, his innate talent wasn't bad, and it was in the direction of compatibility with lizard fays. However, he only had one main fey, and it was the defense-type lizard fey, the iron bone iguana. Asking Master Duanli to help him strengthen a spirit item had cost him 3 years' worth of savings. Even if he were to hire Master Duanli for half the price, he would have to save up for at least a year and a half. Defense-class spirit chi professionals were the shields in front of the team. However, with the current strength of his iron bone iguana, he simply could not bear the responsibility of being a shield in the team. Although the man smiled bitterly in his heart, he still spoke very respectfully. "Thank you for Master Duanli's generosity. Please convey my gratitude to her." After speaking, the man prepared to turn around and leave the Ascending Dragon City's Creation Master Association. The woman with the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest pondered for a moment and said, "That's right. Your iron bone iguana is not just a matter of bloodline. This iron bone iguana will not be very strong even if it has the gold dragon's mouth orchid's flower to activate its dragon species bloodline. I heard from the teacher that the bulging sarcoma on the side of your iron bone iguana's head is a mutation." As soon as the woman with the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest finished speaking, the man quickly turned around and spoke nervously. "Didn't Master Duanli say that this sarcoma wouldn't affect the health of the iron bone iguana? Moreover, it's been more than 10 years and this tumor hasn't changed at all." The woman wearing the 4-star retainer crest didn't mind the man's impatience and rashness. "That's why I said that it's a mutation." The man also realized that he was too agitated and was about to apologize. The woman with the retainer knight badge said, "The sarcoma on the neck of your iron bone iguana is the prototype of a newborn head. Teacher tested the sarcoma and found that the element of the sarcoma is different from the one in the body. It's fire element. If this sarcoma develops into a head, it can turn the iron bone iguana from an earth element fey into an earth fire element fey. You're very lucky. After the head grows, the iron bone iguana will directly become a powerful defense type fey." When the man heard this, his face immediately revealed an ecstatic expression. However, he was a little confused. Why didn't Master Duanli tell him about the tumor? Before the man could rejoice for a while, the woman with the 4-star retainer crest suddenly changed the topic. "However, if your iron bone iguana wants to develop its head tumor into a head, it needs the elemental pearls produced by the fire attribute scorching elemental shellfish induced to mutate." The man's heart sank when he heard that. A gold-ranked dragon's mouth orchid could be saved up for a few years by working hard and scrimping. However, the elemental pearls produced by the elemental shellfish were his. Although his spirit chi professional was at A rank and his Fey was a fantasy breed, he could barely be called a king-class expert. However, many non-king-class experts couldn't even defeat it. How could he dream of such an existence? The woman with the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest said very seriously. The elemental pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish are divided into many grades according to the purity of the elements contained in them. Teacher said that the elemental pearls that are useful for your iron bone iguana must be the highest heavenly maiden grade. The elemental energy contained in the heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls is 95% to 100% pure. Even my teacher can't get such heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls. What's more, if you want your iron bone iguana to grow a second head, you need a total of 5 heavenly maiden grade pearls produced by the scorching elemental shellfish that contain fire elemental energy. The man's hope that had just been born was immediately shattered. He couldn't even afford to ask Master Duanli to enhance a Fey once, let alone the heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls that even Master Duanli couldn't get. The woman with the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest looked at the man's expression and continued speaking. Teacher originally didn't intend to tell you this. I'm telling you because without the heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls for its transformation, this iron bone iguana's growth is already the limit. Seeking recommendation votes. Monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 411. The woman wearing the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest didn't care about the bitterness on the man's face. She just continued to say what she felt she should say. Continuing to nurture this iron bone iguana will only be a waste of spiritual ingredients, which is equivalent to wasting your own potential. You might as well pour the resources to nurture this iron bone iguana into your other phase. The bitterness on the man's face became even stronger. He only had the iron bone iguana as his main Fey. He had comprehended a total of 3 willpower runes, and one of them had been combined with the iron bone iguana to promote it into a fantasy breed. The other 2 willpower runes were flying around his spiritual energy in his spiritual spatial zone. However, even if he didn't nurture the iron bone iguana and nurtured other Feys, since the resources he could earn were limited, he could only choose a bronze/flawless Fey to contract at most. If he wanted to upgrade a bronze/flawless Fey to legend, who knew how many years he would need to accumulate the resources? The man thanked the woman wearing the Class 4 Creation Master's retainer crest very seriously. Then he firmly walked toward the night. This world had always been difficult for poor families to produce noble children. From the first contracted Fey at a young age, the children of the rich and powerful families had already opened a gap like a scar in the sky. Even if the poor children were lucky enough to become king-class experts, it was unknown how much blood and tears they had to pay compared to those who were born in the rich and powerful families. However, among the king-class experts who came from poor families like him would always be at the bottom. Zhou Luo had long seen through this world. Although Zhou Luo's heart was still very desperate, he was now calm. For the poor children, they always had to face troubles and despair on the way to growth. Then they would cross the hurdles brought by troubles and despair. It seemed like a life of seeking joy in hardship, but it was also to change fate. Along the way, Zhou Luo felt that he was a hero. In Zhou Luo's opinion, there was only one kind of heroism in the world, which was to recognize the truth of life and still love it. Zhou Luo originally planned to go to the Guild Alliance to see if there were any missions suitable for him. Suddenly, Zhou Luo thought of the application he had submitted when he had seen the exchange message from the small store he followed on Star Web. In his room, Listen was thinking about how to get through 270 objects mixed with completely jade-textured wood powder every day. To open up the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's development. In purchase with no losses Star Web store, the various group members had quoted 30 flower brocade pearls. Listen knew that most of the people in the group were big shots. However, Listen was still secretly shocked when he saw the big shots offer for the 30 flower brocade pearls. Listen couldn't help but sigh. These big shots are too rich. At the same time, Listen could feel that Lin Yuan had tagged him. The big shots in the group had changed their attitude towards him. Listen always knew where his advantage was. Listen also wanted to build a good relationship with the others in the group. Therefore, Listen was very popular in the group. However, that was only a relationship where they could chat with each other. Now, Listen could clearly feel that some big shots in the group were obviously trying to rope him in. He wanted to use her to exchange for more flower brocade pearls from Lin Yuan. Since Lin Yuan had not replied to Star Web messages, many people wanted to get a chance to contact Lin Yuan through him. Listen did not refuse these people's attempts to rope him in and express goodwill. On the contrary, he was happy to accept them. Since Lin Yuan had taken out the resources for the auction, Listen naturally had to do his best to help Lin Yuan maximize the benefits of these resources. However, Listen also had to make good use of these derived interests to help the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's development subtly. Otherwise, it would be a waste of resources in this area. Listen felt that he had really let down Lin Yuan's high regard. At that moment, Listen heard 3 knocks on the door. Listen used his fingers to rhythmically knock on the table 3 times. Fei Qinxiong pushed the door open, came to Listen's side and said respectfully, "President, I didn't drop the ball on my side. President, I didn't drop the ball. Bai Qinghu has already handed over the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's online and offline phase to me to handle. When the time comes, please arrange how I should handle the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's phase." Upon hearing that, Listen asked with some doubt, why would the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce choose to give up this kind of spirit beast resource that can screen out high-quality mutated phase? Fei Qianxiong did not mince words when he heard Listen's question. "President, don't look at how the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce has developed into a rising faction now, but it doesn't have a single creation master. Even Class 1 and Class 2 creation masters, Bai Qinghu, were forced to send them to the Zheng family. Bai Qinghu has always disliked spirit beast resources without the support of creation masters, but he has never made up his mind to deal with them." At this point, Fei Qinxiong could not help but praise his superb acting skills in front of Bai Qinghu and Bai Qingxiong. Listen said after thinking for a while. "Since the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce wants to sell off the spirit beast resources in its hands, then we'll secretly take them." Fei Qianxiong recalled Bai Qinghu's expression when he had talked about the spirit beast resources and spiritual material resources. After the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's online and offline spirit beast resources are sold, Bai Qinghu will use the Zheng family to shift the business direction to high-end luxury resources. I reckon the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's spiritual material resources will be sold soon. While speaking, Fei Qinxiong admired the young man sitting at the table with phoenix eyes and a mole at the corner of his eye. According to what Listen had taught him, he chatted with Bai Qinghu for an hour. Only then did Bai Qinghu's idea of shifting the development direction of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce to high-end luxury resources step by step. Otherwise, with just his acting skills and without what Listen had taught him, even if he could deceive Bai Qinghu, he would definitely not be able to affect Bai Qinghu's ambitions and thoughts through clues. Listen's fingers gently tapped on the table, making beeping sounds as he quickly calculated in his mind. The investment required for high-end luxury resources isn't a small amount. If Bai Qinghu is focused on developing high-end luxury resources, then he will definitely gather resources and constantly throw out the other resources in his hands little by little. Therefore, you must help Bai Qinghu throw out the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce's online and offline resources. You must do it well. Only by letting Bai Qinghu taste the sweetness can he be at ease to let you handle such things in the future. End of this chapter. Chapter 412. Fei Qinxiong suddenly felt goosebumps all over his body. How big a game of chess is Listen playing? Is he going to swallow the entire Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce? Fei Qinxiong had been listening to the conversation between Listen and the masked youth. He vaguely knew that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's future business direction was also high-end luxury resources. This would lead to a direct confrontation with the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. The youth with the strange mask delivered hundreds of luxury items to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce every day. Even if the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce sold everything they had, how long could they resist? Fei Qinxiong felt that he was many times stronger than Listen in terms of strength. However, no matter how strong he was, he could only protect himself in the face of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. However, when Listen's strategy was used, it could turn the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce from a high position into rubble. At that moment, Listen asked, "What's the Zheng family's attitude toward the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce?" Fei Qinxiong was thinking carefully about Listen's question. At this moment, an unusually old voice rang out in the room. "The Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce is just a dog that the Zheng family fed with 2 bones. What kind of attitude do you think they have?" Listen's eyes widened instantly as he stared at the shadow that had suddenly appeared in the room. The black shadow slowly condensed into a strange, ferocious tiger that was entirely black. This strange tiger was not very big, only 2 meters long, but it had 3 black hole-like eyes. Its entire body was covered with body armor that usually belonged to insect species phase. The most surprising thing was that behind this strange black tiger's tail, There was a thick scorpion tail that was even longer than its body. The hooked needles of the scorpion tail were all wrapped up in black air waves, making it hard to see. One could only faintly see a sharp, cold glint flickering within this black wave of chi. On the back of the strange tiger stood an old man whose body was almost bent at a right angle. The old man's hand that was holding the walking stick seemed to be trembling a bit, but the old man's legs that were standing on Vicious Tiger's back were extremely steady. Feeling the aura rising from the old man's body, and comparing it to the aura rising from Fei Qianxiong's body during the day, Listen could sense that the hunchbacked elder's aura was clearly higher than Fei Qianxiong's. Listen quickly calmed himself down and said, "Since you are so familiar with the Zheng clan, you must be from the Zheng clan. I wonder what the people of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce will think if they find out that the Zheng family treats the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce like a dog." As he listened, Fei Qianxiong felt speechless to the extreme. Fei Qianxiong was not a superstitious person, but he couldn't help but want to find someone to do some divination for him. Was he the reincarnation of the god of misfortune? Why did he encounter so many misfortune in a single day? The circle of black shadows on the strange tiger beneath the stooped old man was clearly the embryonic form of a domain. Although it had yet to truly form a domain, it was already infinitely close. This meant that this stooped old man was a true peak king stage powerhouse. Even if Fei Qianxiong was at his peak, he wouldn't be able to block more than a few moves from a peak king. Moreover, his main Fei, the blood-toothed cricket, had been stripped of its willpower rune and had fallen from a fantasy breed. The hunchbacked old man looked at Listen with a trace of regret in his eyes. He then glanced at Fei Qianxiong and said, "What the dogs of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce think has nothing to do with me. If the dogs are disobedient, they will be obedient after some training. It's just that our Zheng family has trained our dogs very well, unlike the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce who train their own dogs to rebel. You have to be careful. You can't tame a rebellious dog no matter how you train it." As he spoke, the hunchbacked old man, Elder Niu, who was next to young Master Zheng, was somewhat puzzled. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was just an empty shell. How blind was Fei Qianxiong to choose to betray the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce and help the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce? Could it be because of the news that Listen had released that the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce had found the support of a major faction? If that was the case, would the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce have been suppressed so badly by the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce? Does this Fei Qianxiong have a pig brain? Did he really believe it? If he told Fei Qianxiong that he could quickly comprehend the willpower rune by burying him in the ground, he wouldn't be able to do so. Would Fei Qianxiong bury himself alive and suffocate to death? When Fei Qianxiong heard the words of the stooped old man, he suddenly felt a little sad. If he had not chosen to live between life and death, he would not have used the willpower rune to swear to become Listen's servant and betray the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. He had gone through ups and downs for the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce for so many years. He had both merits and hard work. In terms of contribution and hard work, his contribution and hard work were definitely above Bai Qingxiong's. But he had to suffer Bai Qinghu's suspicions at every turn, and he had to endure Bai Qingxiong's impetuous bare brain. In the end, in the eyes of the Zheng family, he was just a dog of the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce. This showed Bai Qinghu and Bai Qingxiong's attitude towards him when facing the Zheng family. At that moment, Fei Qianxiong heard Listen say, "Both the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce and the Zheng family love dogs so much. I guess your surname isn't Zheng, right?" Listen's words immediately caused Elder Niu's expression to change, and the regret in his eyes turned gloomy. Listen continued, "My Listen and the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce never keep dogs. Since Fei Qianxiong has joined the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, he will be one of us in the future." Fei Qianxiong took a deep look at Listen before taking a step forward and summoning his two Feis. After summoning the Diamond 2/Fantasy 2 Mind-Controlling Silkworm Goo and the Diamond 4/Legend Blood-Toothed Cricket, Fei Qianxiong assumed a defensive posture in front of Listen. Elder Niu tapped the dark-eyed scorpion tiger's back with his walking stick. The dark-eyed scorpion tiger could feel the anger in its owner's heart and immediately let out a violent roar. The dark-eyed scorpion tiger's violent roar did not make any sound. Only a strange dark energy ripple swept toward Fei Qianxiong and Listen. Fei Qianxiong immediately shouted, "Mind-controlling silkworm goo, goo poison whip touch. Blood-toothed cricket, chirping sound." Following Fei Qianxiong's shout, the Diamond 2/Fantasy 2 Mind-controlling silkworm goo shot out a long whip-like light shadow from the antennae on its head. The long whip-light shadow smashed into the dark energy ripples, directly scattering a part of the dark energy ripples. However, the dark energy ripples reverted back to their original state in the next moment. Immediately afterward, the blood-toothed cricket let out a violent buzzing sound, and layers of invisible and intangible violent sound waves collided with the dark energy ripple. However, when these violent sound waves collided with the strange dark energy ripple, it was like throwing a stone into a stream. Although it made the dark energy ripple, it could not stop the dark energy ripple from rushing toward the two of them. Third update, seeking monthly and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 413. Fei Qinxiong could not help but sigh in his heart. The blood-toothed cricket had always been his main Fei. However, it had been deprived of its willpower rune and turned from a Fantasy 3 Fei into an ordinary Fei. Even if he still had the Diamond 2/Fantasy 2 mind-controlling Silkworm Goo, it could not even reach 30% of its previous strength in battle. Fei Qinxiong hurriedly injected a large amount of spiritual power into the mind-controlling Silkworm Goo. As the mind-controlling Silkworm Goo injected spiritual power into Fei Qinxiong, its body quickly lit up with a reddish-gold luster. Silky and dazzling reddish-gold threads were quickly spat out of the mind-controlling Silkworm Goo's body. Finally, these threads were tightly entangled, forming 3 reddish-gold ribbons covered with dark red spots. Mind-controlling Silkworm Goo, block in front of me with 1 heart wall ribbon and 2 in front of listen. When the mind-controlling Silkworm Goo heard its master's words, it was obviously a little hesitant. It did not understand why its contractor wanted to protect a member of the group of humans who had attacked it and the blood-toothed cricket during the day. However, the mind-controlling Silkworm Goo was absolutely obedient to Fei Qinxiong in battle. Therefore, the mind-controlling Silkworm Goo didn't hesitate at all to block in front of listen with 2 heart wall ribbons and 1 in front of Fei Qinxiong. At that moment, the dark energy ripples had already rushed over. This dark energy ripples directly sent Fei Qinxiong and listen flying. However, due to the mind-controlling Silkworm Goo's heart wall ribbon's double protection, listen felt the blood in his body surge. However, because Fei Qinxiong lacked a layer of heart wall ribbon's protection, he was eroded by this dark energy ripples. Dark red blood flowed out of Fei Qinxiong's nose and dyed his white beard. Fei Qinxiong stood up and whispered to listen, "I'm going to risk my life. I'm prepared to risk my life. I don't dare to guarantee how long I can stall for. Summon your Fei and break the wall to escape." When Listen heard Fei Qinxiong's words, he had the same deep look as Fei Qinxiong had looked at him before. Listen also looked at Fei Qinxiong deeply. However, Listen did not plan to run. The king-class expert opposite Fei Qinxiong was obviously stronger than him. The stooped old Fei's casual roar produced the dark energy ripples, and Fei Qinxiong found it difficult to deal with it. Even if he ran, how would he be able to escape? The appearance of this stooped old man was different from the appearance of Fei Qinxiong. Fei Qinxiong had been discovered by the mother of bloodbath, and he had shown up in anger because of its words. However, this old man had taken the initiative to appear after hearing his conversation with Fei Qinxiong. The reason this old man represented the Zheng clan and appeared here was probably to take his life. Although Listen did not intend to run, he still summoned his 2 Feis. One was the pain illusory fox that Listen had exchanged from Lin Yuan with source-type items and the day and night spirit silver. The other one was a crimson fox with 3 tails. The crimson fox's fur was extremely bewitching. Together with its 3 long fluffy tails, it looked like a 3-petaled begonia. At this moment, the hunchbacked old man, Old Nyo, said with some pity, "Silver 7/Fantasy I Pain Illusory Fox and Silver 3/Fantasy I 3-tailed Crimson Fox. It seems that you have spent a lot of resources on yourself when you were in charge of the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce." The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is such a small chamber of commerce. It must have spent a lot of effort to cultivate such a Fei combination like yours. Listen's expression did not change when he heard the hunchbacked old man's words, but he thought of his dead relatives. The Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was now a small chamber of commerce, but it had not been in the past. He had been able to obtain such a high-quality Fei, the 3-tailed crimson fox, because of his family's unreserved devotion and love to him. Listen also understood the importance of his strength to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's development. Therefore, after seeing Lin Yuan's exchange, Listen was willing to take out the source-type lifeforms to exchange for a bronze Fei that was suitable for him. Listen stepped forward and said to the hunchbacked old man standing on the dark crystal scorpion tiger, "You should be here to kill me. Why don't I give you the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, and you let Fei Qinxiong go?" Fei Qinxiong's eyes widened as he looked at Listen in confusion. Listen raised his eyes at Fei Qianxiong and then at the Diamond 2/Fantasy 2 mind-controlling silkworm goo. Then, he took a step forward and looked at the hunchbacked old man standing on the dark gold scorpion tiger. Fei Qianxiong immediately understood Listen's meaning. Fei Qianxiong was Listen's servant. When he had sworn with the willpower rune, Fei Qianxiong had sworn a death oath for loyalty. If Listen died, Fei Qianxiong would also lose his life due to the willpower rune's backlash. Fei Qianxiong followed Listen's instructions and secretly injected all the spirit chi in his body into the mind-controlling silkworm goo without a trace. He was ready to wait for Listen's next instructions. Elder Nyo's mouth suddenly curled into a smile as if he was mocking. He looked at Listen with a scrutinizing and playful gaze. Are you showing off the deep relationship between a master and a servant in front of an old man like me? This is the first time I've seen a master say that he's willing to die for his dog. Hee, you guys don't have to do these little tricks. The flow of spiritual power is as conspicuous as a colorful ribbon in front of me. After saying that, Elder Nyo threw the walking stick in his hand up. The walking stick changed shape in midair and turned into a strange tadpole that was less than half the size of a palm. There were 7 to 8 supporting nerve tubes on both sides of the strange tadpole. Rows of densely packed compound eyes grew on every nerve tube. With this dark spirit eye tadpole around, any trace of spiritual power changes can't escape my perception. Dark spirit eye tadpole, use dark spirit seal. Just as the voice of the old man on the back of the dark-eyed scorpion tiger fell, the densely packed compound eyes on the nerves of the dark spirit eye tadpole all flickered, and the light in the entire room immediately dimmed. Listen and Fei Qianxiong, who were injecting spiritual power into the mind-controlling silkworm goo, immediately realized that the spiritual power in their bodies seemed to be firmly imprisoned. Listen felt that the spiritual power in his body seemed to have become a crystal-like substance that couldn't be mobilized at all. Fei Qianxiong also felt that the spiritual power in his body had been sealed. Although it wasn't as hard to use as the crystal, although it wasn't as difficult to mobilize as a crystal-like substance, it was no different from sticky asphalt. At the same time, the flow of spiritual power in the mind-controlling silkworm goo's body was so slow that it needed a few seconds of preparation time to use its previous instantaneous skills. Sensing this situation, Fei Qianxiong couldn't help but let out a long sigh. It was actually another Fei that was about to become a suzerain. How could he fight this? It was simply unsolvable. Looking for recommendation votes, monthly votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 4:14. The hunchbacked old man, Elder Nyo, stroked the dark spirit eye tadpole in his hand and looked up at Listen. Your spiritual power has been sealed, so don't resist anymore. Realize the final value of your life. Dark-eyed scorpion tiger, those 6 units over there will be your supper tonight. Eat quickly and report back to young Master Zheng. Upon hearing its contractor's words, the sharpness of the dark-eyed scorpion tiger's tail hidden in the shadows emerged. The dark-eyed scorpion tiger's pitch-black tail hook flashed. 6 hook shadows mixed with a layer of darkness domain's embryonic form attacked Listen, Fei Qianxiong, and the 4 Feis that they had summoned. Fei Qianxiong's face was pale. The dark-eyed scorpion tiger's attack had a layer of domain's power. With his spiritual power sealed, even if he wanted to let the mind-controlling silkworm goo use the heart wall ribbon again, it could not do so. Moreover, even if the mind-controlling silkworm goo used the heart wall ribbon, could it really block this attack with domain power? Just as the 6 hook shadows were about to land on Listen, Fei Qianxiong, and the 4 Feis that they had summoned, a fist-sized pink-purple hydrangea flower appeared out of thin air in the middle of the room. The pink-purple hydrangea flower gently spun in mid-air and was infinitely beautiful. The 6 hook shadows mixed with the domain of darkness were directly pulled into the pinkish-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower, and were crushed by the layers of pinkish-purple petals. A clear but abnormally gentle voice echoed out of thin air. What you said just now is wrong. There are still many spirit chi fluctuations that your eyes can't see. Listen and Fei Qianxiong had thought that they were doomed, but they didn't expect a turn for the better. Unexpectedly, there was a pinkish-purple flower in the shape of an embroidered ball that saved their lives. Listen immediately thought of Lin Yuan. Listen looked at this pink-purple hydrangea flower, and his heart was filled with peace of mind. Although this pink-purple hydrangea flower did not block in front of him, it was like an absolute defense. It even took away the aura that he had endured from the opposite side in the beautiful light rotation of the flower. The hunchbacked old man, Elder Nyo, immediately became nervous and consumed a large amount of spirit chi to urge the dark spirit eye tadpole. It made the dark spirit eye tadpole's hidden main eye light up, but it still couldn't see through the dark spirit eye tadpole's main eye. Seeing the spiritual energy fluctuations in the pinkish-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower, the stooped old man, Elder Nyo, squeezed out all the spiritual power in his body without thinking. Almost all the spirit chi in the body of a pinnacle A-rank spirit chi professional was given to the dark-eyed scorpion tiger that was about to reach suzerain. The dark-eyed scorpion tiger's black carapace instantly lit up. The carapace on the dark-eyed scorpion tiger's body seemed to pull all the light in the room into darkness, turning the room into a world of darkness. The dark-eyed scorpion tiger's tail began to vibrate at a strange frequency. Finally, the tail directly stabbed into the carapace on its back. The dark energy that was originally wrapped around the tip of the hooked tail was all wildly injected into the dark-eyed scorpion tiger's body. The dark energy poured out in torrents, causing the dark-eyed scorpion tiger's domain to become even more solid. It was as if the back half of the dark-eyed scorpion tiger had disappeared into the darkness. Then, the dark-eyed scorpion tiger's 3 pitch-black eye sockets suddenly condensed into 3 strange, black, vertical pupils. The 3 strange eyeballs with vertical pupils began to spin at high speed, as if they were boosting the domain power around the dusky crystal black tiger. The domain power around the dusky crystal black tiger's body suddenly spread out from its originally solid state. It surrounded the spinning pink-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower in midair, wanting to completely pull it into the darkness domain. The unusually gentle voice sounded out of thin air again. You can't master a domain until you're at the suzerain grade. Your dark-eyed scorpion tiger is only at Diamond X/Fantasy 4. Even if you've touched the threshold of the domain, you've only grasped the form and not the spirit. Activating the domain to launch an attack is just neglecting the essentials. The expanding darkness domain had already pulled the slowly spinning embroidered ball-shaped flower into the domain. However, according to the feedback given by the dark-eyed scorpion tiger in the darkness domain, Elder Nyo found that the pink-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower still didn't seem to exist in the domain. Elder Nyo's eyes stared straight at the pink-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower suspended in midair. His voice was abnormally solemn. Who are you? Elder Nyo's heart sank completely at this moment. At the same time he felt a sense of absurdity. He was a pinnacle king-class expert, an existence that even his contracted Diamond 8/Fantasy 3 Dark Spirit Eye tadpole couldn't discover with all its might. It could only be a suzerain/myth breed fae. Furthermore, this myth breed fae had to be at least myth 2. Even if it was a suzerain/myth eye fae that was good at concealment. Elder Nyo felt that even if the Dark Spirit Eye tadpole couldn't discover the target's existence, the Diamond X/Fantasy 4 Dark-Eyed Scorpion Tiger's pseudo-domain definitely wouldn't be unable to discover the target's existence. Just a moment ago he was a ferocious hunter who was toying with 2 ant-like prey. However, in the blink of an eye the world had changed and he had become the prey from the hunter. The unusually gentle voice carried a hint of laughter. From the moment you entered this house, I saw you being infinitely rampant. I arrived before you, yet you asked me who I was. I should be the one asking you. Fei Qinxiong swallowed his saliva with difficulty. What exactly was the background of the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's backer, that youth wearing a strange mask? This myth-breed Fei was obviously not the one that had been with the youth wearing a strange mask during the day. He was actually lucky enough to see 2 suzerain/myth-breed Feis on the same day. Since when were suzerain/myth-breed Feis so worthless? The hunchbacked old man, Elder Nyo, didn't know why the pink-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower spinning beautifully in midair didn't reveal the slightest aura. However, the existence of this pink-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower made his heart feel as though it was being pressed by 1,000 jacks. Elder Nyo shouted in a deep voice. Sir, the listening Heron Chamber of Commerce is something that my Zheng family is determined to obtain. Listen is also someone that my Zheng family wants to kill tonight. Just as Elder Nyo said this, that unusually gentle voice was tainted with a trace of coldness. Can I protect the person that the Zheng family wants to kill when it's something that the Zheng family is determined to obtain? As soon as this unusually gentle voice fell, the pink-purple embroidered ball-shaped flower spinning gracefully in midair suddenly blossomed with a gorgeous pink-colored brilliance. Countless pink-purple petals poured out of the embroidered ball-shaped flower. The pink-purple petals danced in midair. The petals were as light as a rainbow-colored dress and as graceful as a graceful swan. Amidst the elegant dance, it startled the deep midsummer. At that moment, a gentle shout echoed. Midsummer Cage. Second update, seeking monthly votes, recommendation votes. If you're reading a book, Please post this chapter, prove that I'm not writing alone. Woo. End of this chapter. Chapter 4:15. The moment the gentle voice rang out, a cold glint flashed across the sky. The pinkish-purple petals tore this dark domain into pieces like the dawn that banished the darkness. Immediately after, Elder Nyo discovered that these pinkish-purple petals combined with each other. They were like shackles that imprisoned him, his contracted dark-eyed scorpion tiger, and the dark spirit-eye tadpole. Under the imprisonment of these petals, his body could not move. At the same time, he could no longer mobilize the spirit chi in his body. He was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered without the ability to resist. The abnormally gentle voice that appeared out of thin air had a calm tone, but the words it said seemed to be mocking. Compared to the spiritual power imprisonment you were so proud of just now, do you see my means in your eyes? Amidst the sprinkling of pink-purple petals, a graceful figure appeared beside Listen. The graceful figure raised her hand and shook the bracelet hanging on her wrist. There were many pinkish-purple embroidered ball-shaped flowers on this bracelet, which let out crisp colliding sounds as it shook. The pinkish-purple embroidered ball-shaped flowers that were rotating in the air shrank as if they had found a home and flew toward the woman's wrist. They turned into a small pinkish-purple embroidered ball-shaped pendant like the other pendants. The hunchbacked old man, Elder Nyo, could not help but exclaim. There was an indescribable shock in his aged voice. Fey martial materialization. You're actually at myth 3. Endless Summer ignored Elder Nyo's exclamation and snapped her fingers. Enlightenment law, willpower examination. As soon as Endless Summer's voice fell, Elder Nyo felt a pain in his spiritual spatial zone as if he had been pierced by a sharp thorn. After this pain he recovered to his original state. Elder Nyo found that he did not have any abnormalities. At that moment, Endless Summer frowned slightly and said, I heard you coming and going like a dog. I heard you running around like a dog, but it turns out you're just a servant. How ironic. Elder Nyo's face turned red, but before he could speak, Endless Summer said, Humans are valued. Everyone should respect themselves. All living things can be called humans. If you see others as dogs, then you are the real dog. Since you've already sworn with the willpower rune, there's really no use in keeping you. Elder Nyo did not expect that the news that Listen had released about the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce having a backer would actually be true. The backer behind the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce was definitely not weak. Otherwise, with his strength at the peak of the king's stage, he wouldn't have fallen into a dead end just to complete young Master Zheng's mission. Old Nyo said urgently. I swear by the willpower rune that I am loyal to the patriarch of the Zheng family's third lineage, the Zheng family's third lineage. Before Elder Nyo could finish speaking, Endless Summer snapped her fingers again. I hate dark-type Fays the most. Dark-type Fays should die. Especially this kind of black tiger that likes to dig out the heart when it eats. Enlightenment rune mind still. The moment Endless Summer said that her mind was still, whether it was Elder Nyo, the dark-eyed scorpion tiger, or the dark spirit-eye tadpole, they all fell into a state of deathly stillness. It was as if he had entered an endless slumber. Immediately after, Endless Xia clenched her fist and yelled. Blum. Shooting spear of summer. The midsummer cage that had previously trapped Elder Nyo, the dark-eyed scorpion tiger, and the dark spirit-eye tadpole had turned into 3 spears made of pinkish-purple petals in the blink of an eye. The moment the spear condensed, it pierced through his heart. The Pinnacle King-class expert, Elder Nyo, the Diamond X/Fantasy 4 dark-eyed scorpion tiger, and the Diamond 8/Fantasy 3 dark spirit-eye tadpole. Just like that, they died from these 3 shooting spears of summer made of pinkish-purple petals without any struggle in their long slumber. Fei Qinxiong was completely subdued at this moment, and he felt a lot of sweat in his palms. His entire palms were completely drenched. Bai Qinghu had previously hinted for him to swear with the willpower rune to become the Iron Arm Chamber of Commerce's guardian. Although there were no restrictions on becoming the Iron Arm Chamber of Commerce's guardian, he would not be like a servant, where his life and death were in the hands of others. However, the loyalty contract issued by the willpower rune was different from the oath of exchange. The loyalty oath could only be issued once in a lifetime. Choosing to become a guardian and be loyal to a faction or a person was a lifelong matter. Even if the person being protected died or the faction was destroyed, the loyalty oath could not be issued a second time in a lifetime. Fei Qinxiong was now extremely glad that he had not issued the loyalty oath to the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce under Bai Qinghu's hint. If he had really issued the loyalty oath to the Iron Wall Chamber of Commerce, then he would probably be a dead man during the day. The hunchbacked old man in front of him was an example. Endless Summer shook the pink-purple metal bell hanging on her bracelet. The dark-eyed scorpion tigers and dark spirit-eye tadpoles' corpses were all stored in the pink-purple bell-shaped diamond face storage box by Endless Summer. Endless Summer nodded with satisfaction. These two diamond-fantasy breed fays had been killed by Summer Solstice's spear in their slumber, so they could really preserve their integrity to the greatest extent. Listen hurriedly bowed to Endless Summer to show that he dared to take it. "Thank you, Senior, for saving me." Endless Summer turned her head, looked at Listen, and said gently, "Young Master arranged for me to stay here for this period of time. Young Master arranged for me to stay here for this period of time. Don't worry and boldly develop according to your plan." Upon hearing that, Listen immediately stopped worrying about his future safety. Since the Zheng family had sent a pinnacle king-class expert to kill him, it was equivalent to saying that the Zheng family had the intention to kill him. As long as he was not dead, the Zheng family would not be able to get what they wanted from him. Then the danger he would face in the future would never end. Listen's peace of mind was different. Fei Qinxiong could not help but reveal an ecstatic expression on his face. With a suzerain/myth 3 expert that could perform body weaponization, his safety could be considered guaranteed. Fei Qinxiong was simply afraid of death. This feeling of having to experience life and death twice a day. Fei Qinxiong suddenly felt that fighting and killing among spirit chi professionals is simply too boring. Acting is still more interesting. Endless Summer looked at Fei Qinxiong with a trace of approval in her eyes. With a flip of her hand, a willpower containing blood was injected into the blood-toothed cricket's body. When Fei Qinxiong felt this blood willpower, his body could not help but tremble. At that moment, Fei Qinxiong heard an unusually gentle voice beside his ear. "You did well just now. Little Sister Blood said to let me return your blood poison willpower depending on the situation. I'm giving it to you now." Fei Qinxiong was so excited that he was incoherent and almost choked. Fei Qinxiong did not feel anything when the blood-toothed cricket was a fantasy breed. But when the blood-toothed cricket fell from a fantasy breed, Fei Qinxiong felt how desperate the feeling of powerlessness was. Now that he had regained the blood poison willpower, even though the blood-toothed cricket needed some time to nourish it before it could return to its previous state of complete victory. However, if it weren't for the blood poison's willpower that had been lost and regained, Fei Qinxiong was really not sure if he could comprehend another willpower rune suitable for the blood-toothed cricket to fuse within this life. Third update, seeking monthly votes and recommendation votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 416. Indigo Azure City was surrounded by the sea on 3 sides, and it just so happened that the wind was blowing today. The waves hit the reefs on the shore and made the sound of rolling waves. The people who lived on the shore of Indigo Azure City were used to this sound. When he fell asleep with this sound, he slept even more soundly. In a luxuriously decorated mansion in the center of Indigo Azure City, a middle-aged man with a sinister look in his eyes said enthusiastically, "Second young master, do you like my chess pieces carved from jade-textured ebony and jade-textured white sandalwood? If it's to your liking, I'll have someone send it to you when second young master returns." The youth that was addressed as second young master had a skinny body and was wearing the Creation Master Association's standard robe. He was using his finger to count the rows of books on the bookshelf. Hearing the middle-aged man's words, he waved his hand without turning his head. "I never place jade-textured black and white chess pieces in my study. Even if I do, I only place completely jade-textured black and white chess pieces. Speaking of completely jade-textured black and white chess pieces, I have 2 pots. Third uncle, if you like it, I'll have someone bring you a pot so you can broaden your horizons." The words of the youth, who was wearing a Creation Master's robe and addressed as second young master, caused the middle-aged man's enthusiastic smile to freeze. It was extremely awkward. Just as he was about to speak, the second young master, who was wearing a Creation Master robe, turned around and spoke. "Third uncle, your 3 bloodlines have never dared to touch the coastal resources because you're afraid of being targeted by the Chiao and Wei families. At the same time, you're also afraid that the 1st, 2nd, and 4th bloodlines will secretly cause trouble. I, Zheng Kaiyuan, am standing up for third uncle in the main house, but you won't say a word about how much of the coastal resources are going to be given to me? You're only taking a pot of jade-textured black and white chess pieces as a sign of sincerity. Aren't you looking down on me, Zheng Kaiyuan?" The sinister-eyed middle-aged man looked even more embarrassed as he hurriedly said, "Since second young master is willing to stand up for the 3rd bloodline in the main family, How can our third bloodline be lacking in resources for second young master? I wonder what second young master thinks about our third lineage giving 30% of the profits from the offshore coastal resources to second young master. The youth who was addressed as second young master waved his hand and summoned a small marten with a black and white tail. As soon as the sable with one black and one white tail was summoned, it saw the pot of black and white chess pieces made of jade-textured ebony and jade-textured white sandalwood. It immediately became lively and looked at its master with its watery eyes. The second young master looked at his contracted little marten with a gentle look on his face. Go, Sunluo. More. With its master's permission, the little marten with one black and one white tail scurried into the pot containing the black and white chess pieces. He gnawed on the chess pieces in the pot with a ka-ka-kan sound. The young man who was addressed as second young master looked up and gently stroked a strand of sable fur off his sleeve. He looked up at the sinister-looking middle-aged man and said, "Third uncle, my yin-yang myriad mink is hungry. If this little thing wants to eat, I can't control it. I believe third uncle won't lower himself to the same level as this little thing." The sinister-looking middle-aged man hurriedly smiled apologetically. "It is this pot of chess pieces fortune that second young master's Fei likes to eat." The young man who was addressed as second young master seemed to have completely forgotten that he was the one who had asked the yin-yang myriad mink to eat more. The second young master seemed to be a little sleepy. He rubbed his temples and yawned. "I want 50%. Without giving the sinister-looking middle-aged man a chance, the young man who was addressed as second young master spoke again. "The Radiance Creation Master Youth Tournament is starting next year. I'm tight on money. 50%. If third uncle isn't willing, the first, second, and fourth lineages should be very willing." Upon hearing that, the sinister-looking middle-aged man's expression froze and he quickly replied, "Second young master, why don't we have a good talk again?" The young man who was addressed as second young master chuckled and said, "Little Sunluo, let's go. Little Senro, let's go. We shouldn't eat these chess pieces." The sinister-looking middle-aged man's face immediately turned pale, and he spoke in a panic. "Second young master, 50% it is." The pitiful little marten, who was obviously not full yet, yawned again after being picked up by the young man who was addressed as second young master. "I'm sleepy. Third uncle, why don't you come to my residence tomorrow and bring your most sincere regards?" After the young man who was addressed as second young master left, the sinister-looking middle-aged man's face immediately turned gloomy. He sat on the chair for a long time without saying a word. His fists clenched tighter and tighter. At that moment, the sinister-looking middle-aged man's expression suddenly became astonished. Then it was shock and worry. He immediately picked up his cell phone and dialed a number. The phone rang twice before it was picked up. When the sinister-looking middle-aged man heard the normal voice on the other end of the phone that seemed to have a hint of joy, the worry in his heart dissipated a lot. But immediately after, anger rushed up, and he forcefully suppressed his emotions. "Where's Elder Nyo?" The sinister-looking youth who received the call replied indifferently, "I arranged for Elder Nyo to do some small things." "Father, how did you persuade second young master to stand on our third lineage's side?" Upon hearing this, the sinister-looking middle-aged man could no longer suppress his monstrous anger. He immediately erupted and scolded. "Small things? Elder Nyo and my allegiance oath is broken and you say that it's a small thing? If you die outside, do I have to pretend that nothing happened?" The sinister-looking middle-aged man's anger poured out crazily over the phone. It made the sinister-looking youth on the other end of the phone fall into a state of astonishment. But immediately after, an unconcealable horror appeared on the sinister-looking youth's face. The hand holding the cell phone trembled a little in this horror. Elder Nyo had sworn to his father with a willpower rune to become his father's servant. But now, his father said that Elder Nyo's allegiance oath was broken. Didn't this mean that Elder Nyo was already dead? Elder Nyo was a pinnacle king-class expert, and his contracted dark-eyed scorpion tiger was a Diamond X/Fantasy 4 Fey. How could someone with such strength die without a sound? Elder Nyo had just gone to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, a place where an ant was holding on with an empty shell, to kill that ant that had been holding on. How could he die? Before the sinister-looking youth could make more guesses, he heard his father's angry voice on the other end of the phone. "Hurry up and get back to Indigo Azure City. How did my third lineage produce a useless thing like you?" As he spoke, the sinister-looking middle-aged man felt like his lungs were about to explode. What was the reason that caused him to lose a peak king-level warrior for no apparent reason? After hanging up the phone, the sinister middle-aged man smashed his fist on the table in front of him. A loud bang was heard. At this moment, an expert who was even older than Elder Nyo but had a straight back walked in and said, "Master, why are you so angry?" When the middle-aged man saw the old man, he quickly stood up and said, "Uncle Jiao, please make a trip to the capital and help me bring that unfilial son back. I'd like to see what kind of trouble this unfilial son has caused in the capital." After waking up in the morning, he had breakfast downstairs and returned to his room to log on to Star Web. Lin Yuan's eyes lit up when he saw that the 2 letters he had sent last night had received a reply. However, when Lin Yuan opened one of the letters, a voice suddenly rang out. Lin Yuan frowned deeply. Asking for monthly and recommended votes. End of chapter. Chapter 417. Lin Yuan frowned and looked at the reply on the letter. Freezing cold, I'll be there at 10 o'clock. I need to see the bronze/epic lizard species Fey that I mentioned before. I also have some requests that I need to say in advance. Freezing Cold was one of the 2 king-class experts who had 2 main Feys when Lin Yuan had issued the trade message. Freezing Cold had 3 spirit chi runes and 2 main Feys. It was considered a pretty good set of equipment for king-class experts. Therefore, when Lin Yuan had seen him ask if there was a bronze/epic lizard species Fey on his side, he had immediately enhanced one. Looking at the personal information sent by Freezing Cold. One of Freezing Cold's 2 contracted Feys was a Diamond 3/Fantasy 2 Barb-Toothed Terror Lizard. The other was a Diamond I/Fantasy 2 Saber-Toothed Salamander. In terms of raw strength, Freezing Cold was inferior to Fei Qinxiong. However, the Diamond I/Fantasy 2 Saber-Toothed Salamander had completed the transition from a lizard species Fey to a dragon species Fey and had great potential. Lin Yuan had taken a fancy to Freezing Cold's potential. Moreover, Lin Yuan really did not have any king-class experts that he could use now. That was why he had prepared Freezing Cold's needs in advance. Otherwise, given Freezing Cold's strength, he was really not qualified to make such a request. It was just like when the Lightning Sparrow King's Pinnacle King-class expert squad wanted to get a bronze/epic Fey. They also needed to integrate resources and put in a lot of effort. As the saying went, be courteous to the wise. Since Lin Yuan was going to implement the white-clothed followers plan, he would not be stingy with resources for capable people. However, the implementation of the white-clothed followers plan was not to raise a boss. Lin Yuan would not be stingy with resources for the white-clothed followers, but the premise was that he needed to have absolute control. Lin Yuan had already drawn a question mark in his heart about this king-class expert called Freezing Cold. The white-clothed followers plan was to form a sword that could sweep across Sky City. The most important thing for a sharp weapon like a sword was obedience. Otherwise, no matter how sharp the sword was, it would hurt itself if it was disobedient. However, Lin Yuan did not directly exclude Freezing Cold. He intended to take a look in person before making a decision. It was still early and he had nothing to do anyway, so he called his purchase with No Lost Star Web Fan Club. He was prepared to look through the chat history of his purchase with No Lost Stores Fan Club. After flipping through the records, he realized that an entire night had passed. The people in the group were still enthusiastically discussing the auction of the 30 flower brocade pearls. These 30 flower brocade pearls were treated as group welfare and were publicly auctioned in the group. Therefore, every member's bid would be seen by all the members in the group. Every time someone posted a new price, they would be praised by the others in the group and called them Big Boss. Then, after a period of time, someone else would raise the price. In addition, Braised Egghead Stream in the Clouds, Violent Tempered Daughter, Buddha Tempered and Zhou Jiesin joined in. Lin Yuan realized that the auction of the 30 flower brocade pearls, which was treated as group welfare, seemed to have become a ranking competition between the bigwigs in the group. Lin Yuan saw that the highest bidder was a Class 4 Creation Master. The Class 4 Creation Master had already raised the price to a source-type item, 250 caddies of gold-piercing aluminum ore and 70 mid-grade strange flames. Lin Yuan could not help but secretly click his tongue when he saw this price. A source-type item was a lot more precious than the flower brocade pearls. In other words, it was very difficult to exchange the flower brocade pearls for a source-type item. But now, this Class 4 Creation Master was willing to take out a source-type item to exchange for the flower brocade pearls. This could really reflect the Creation Master's consistent wealth. They would not consider the price when facing the things they wanted. The gold-grade spirit material, piercing aluminum, was an extremely dangerous spirit material. It could hurt people if placed there. The bristly aluminum ore would constantly release sharp metal sword auras. Everything around the piercing aluminum ore would be attacked by the metal sword rays indiscriminately. After injecting spiritual power into it, the metal sword rays released by the piercing aluminum ore would become sharper, more powerful, and the range would also expand. Previously, Lin Yuan had wanted to choose to fuse the gold-piercing aluminum ore into the source sand. However, after weighing the pros and cons, Lin Yuan still chose the day and night spirit silver. At that time, it was more important for Lin Yuan to improve his defense than to enhance his offensive ability. The gold-piercing aluminum ore was even rarer than the day and night spirit silver. The last time it had appeared in the rare lifeform pavilion was 8 months ago. After looking through the chat records for a while, Lin Yuan found that the Class 4 Creation Master's price had been bid by someone else. Lin Yuan was very interested in the 250 caddies of gold-piercing aluminum ore. Lin Yuan could not help but think that even if this Class 4 Creation Master could not complete the final bid, if he wanted to take out the flower brocade pearls to exchange with this Class 4 Creation Master for the 250 caddies of gold-piercing aluminum ore, this Class 4 Creation Master should be willing to do so. Lin Yuan could already feel the huge benefits of the network formed by the purchase with No Loss Stores fan club members in his collection of spiritual ingredients. After feeling this huge benefit, Lin Yuan dispelled the idea of trading these flower brocade pearls with other factions. Through this group welfare auction, Lin Yuan understood the terrifying purchasing power of these big shots in his group. There was still half a day before the end of the group welfare auction. But now the auction price of these 30 flower brocade pearls was already much higher than the market price. Therefore, the saved flower brocade pearls were put outside for trading. It was better to auction them in the group welfare mode. This was also the same as strengthening the tenacity and flexibility of the relationship network in the group. As Lin Yuan looked at the 10 flower brocade pearls on display in his store, he could already imagine what would happen after tonight's exhibition. He could already imagine that after tonight's exhibition, these 10 flower brocade pearls would definitely set off a bloody storm. Lin Yuan went to check the price of the mid-grade strange flame and found that it had risen a lot compared to before. Lin Yuan blinked and could not help but wonder if he had pried up the price of the mid-grade strange flame spiritual ingredient. Lin Yuan logged onto the Star Web forum and searched for the welfare of his purchase with No Loss Stores fan club. He wanted to see if it had spread out as he had imagined. As a result, Lin Yuan was embarrassed. The welfare of his Star Web Stores fan club had spread out. However, almost half of the posts that Lin Yuan checked were made by lifestyle class spirit chi professionals scolding him in groups. Second update, end of this chapter. Chapter 418. In the Radiance Federation, it was those lifestyle class spirit chi professionals who needed the strange flames the most. These lifestyle class spirit chi professionals criticized the purchase with No Loss Stores owner for using blind barter to purchase mid-grade strange flames. As a result, the price of mid-grade strange flames had risen in the market, severely affecting the daily consumption of lifestyle class spirit chi professionals. These lifestyle class spirit chi professionals' accusations made Lin Yuan feel aggrieved. He had only collected more than 200 mid-level strange flames so far. How big of an impact could they have? Why do these lifestyle class spirit chi professionals hate me so much? What he didn't know was that some factions and creation masters wanted to make deals with him in the future in exchange for the flower brocade pearls. He had already secretly hoarded quite a number of mid-level strange flames. Of course, there were also some forces that did not need the flower brocade pearls. They just wanted to take advantage of the limelight and absorb the resources of mid-grade strange flames that were not abundant in the market. Then he would raise the price of the mid-level strange flame and take the opportunity to make a killing. He looked at the time, logged out of Star Web and went downstairs to find Lu Jia. During the time Hu Quan had been promoted to a Class 5 spirit craftsman, Lin Yuan had already told him about the layout of his private faction territory on Star Web. Hu Quan was also working overtime according to Lin Yuan's requirements. He knew that he would immediately get busy after his faction announced its functions on Star Web and started to send out fate letters. Moreover, after the new year, when he established the space tunnel connecting to the Divinewood Federation, he still had to take care of the development of the Divinewood Federation. Naturally, he did not have the energy to manage these white-clothed followers. Lu Jia was his retainer knight, so Lu Jia was the most suitable person to control these white-clothed followers. As soon as Lin Yuan went downstairs, he saw Lu Jia walking out of the training room. When Lu Jia saw Lin Yuan, he immediately walked over excitedly and said, "Brother Lin, I'm here. Lin Yuan, my Insect Queen's bayonet beetle genetic model has evolved." The bayonet beetle's genetic model should now be renamed to flesh-mincing blade insect. After saying that, Lu Jie circulated his spiritual energy in front of Lin Yuan and summoned the insect queen that was half the size of a palm. When Lu Jie first summoned the insect queen, it looked like it was on the brink of death. However, as the purple flesh cocoon squirmed, a small head popped out. Seeing Lu Jie, the little girl was pleasantly surprised. A petite figure flew out of the purple flesh cocoon and hugged Lu Jie's neck. Only now did Lin Yuan know that the insect queen's true body was actually a fairy source-type life form after recovering from its near-death state. Fairy source-type life forms refer to non-animal, plant, or item source-type life forms. Most fairy source-type life forms had humanoid appearances. Lu Jie's insect queen had been hugging Lu Jie's neck ever since it came out. She looked very shy and very dependent on Lu Jie. Lu Jie lovingly rubbed his cheek against the insect queen. At that moment, a phrase suddenly flashed in Lin Yuan's mind: deep father-daughter love. How was Lu Jie raising a source-type life form? He was practically raising a daughter. Lu Jie said to the petite insect queen, "Pian Pian, produce a flesh-mincing blade insect." As soon as Lu Jie finished speaking, Lu Jie's fairy-like little insect queen turned into a streak of purple light and returned to the purple flesh cocoon. Immediately after, the purple flesh cocoon landed on the ground and immediately turned into a zerg base. Its body expanded to over 3 meters, and there were many sac-like tubes that were unique to insect species phase. The moment the insect queen transformed, a beetle with an angular shell with 8 sharp long legs was produced by this huge zerg base and appeared in front of Lin Yuan. After carefully examining the flesh-mincing beetle produced by Lu Jie's insect queen, Lin Yuan was quite surprised. This source-type cocoon of evolution was actually so powerful. It allowed the bayonet beetle, an insect species Fey with a relatively simple genetic model, to be so greatly strengthened. The bayonet beetle's attack method was to use the sharp horns on its head to stab. At the same time, it used its 8 legs to assist in the attack. After the bayonet beetle had been strengthened by the cocoon of evolution, the flesh-mincing beetle had weakened the sharp horns on its head. Although the sharp horns on its head had been weakened, each side of the prismatic carapace on its body was very sharp and played the same role as the sharp horns. The 8 sharp, bone-scraper-like legs could quickly cut the Fey's fur and mash the flesh into meat paste as they moved quickly. Although the flesh-mincing blade insects and bayonet beetles' attack methods had not changed, one flesh-mincing blade insect's strength could completely single-handedly fight 3 bayonet beetles of the same size. This was the process of Lu Jie's insect C going from a qualitative to a quantitative change. Coupled with the insect queen's exclusive skills, insect swarm frenzy and explosive recovery, the insect queen's attacks were extremely powerful. Lu Jie had only buffed one of his skills, yet his strength had increased by at least an entire level. Lin Yuan was very happy about Lu Jie's increase in strength. Congratulations, brother Lu. Your insect C has taken on a new look. Lin Yuan could feel that Lu Jie was clearly more confident than before. Now that the agreed time with the 2 king-class experts had arrived, Lin Yuan decided to say, "Let's go. Big brother Lu, let's log into Star Web and meet at the entrance of a store called Purchase with No Loss." Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Lu Jie was a little puzzled. Was Lin Yuan asking him to go shopping with him? Lu Jie had heard about the popularity of the Purchase with No Loss store even though he did not close the forum. It was said that it was a boutique shop with a mysterious boss that only sold exquisite items. Although Lu Jie was puzzled, he naturally would not refuse Lin Yuan's words. "Alright, I'll return to my room and log into the Star Web now." Hu Quan no longer stayed up late recently, so he used the daytime to create various objects. When he saw that Lin Yuan was pulling Lu Jie to Star Web for something, he said, "Let's go. When the 2 of you go out, put on the masks I made for you. Boys have to protect themselves when they go out." When Lin Yuan heard Hu Quan's words, he felt that Uncle Hu Quan was a little strange, as though there was an unknown story behind him. Why do boys have to protect themselves? Weren't the ones who needed to protect themselves all girls? Lu Jie could not help but ask when Hu Quan mentioned the oddly shaped but very light mask. "Uncle Hu, aren't the masks you made only worn when we're out representing our forces? Isn't it strange to wear it in a Star Web store?" Before Hu Quan could speak, Lin Yuan smiled brightly at Lu Jie, revealing a mouthful of white teeth. "Brother Lu, we really have to wear it this time?" Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Lu Jie immediately became solemn. He knew that Lin Yuan was looking for him to go to Star Web to do something related to his faction. Suddenly, Lu Jie thought of the rumors on Star Web, saying that the owner of the Purchase with No Loss store was a young man. Lu Jie could not help but have some doubts. Could this young boss be Lin Yuan? Looking for recommendation votes, monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 419. Lu Jie returned to his room one step ahead of Lin Yuan. Just as Lin Yuan was about to return to his room, he heard Hu Quan's voice. I really don't know how you came up with so many ideas. Other people are afraid of wasting this completely jade-like gold-rimmed Nanmu. But you asked me to extract the crystallized golden threads from the gold-threaded Nanmu for you, bit by bit. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan scratched the back of his head and asked Hu Quan, Uncle Hu, is it difficult to extract the golden threads from the completely jade-textured gold-threaded Nanmu? Hu Quan chuckled and said, if I didn't have this fantasy breed wood weaving house centipede, I wouldn't have been able to deal with these crystallized golden threads. Even if I could separate these crystallized golden threads from these completely jade-textured gold-threaded Nanmu, I wouldn't be able to separate them so completely like this. However, the number of completely jade-textured gold-rimmed Nanmu you gave me is really quite a lot. It will take at least 13 to 14 days to extract all the crystallized golden threads. At this point, Hu Quan rolled his eyes and said with a grin, why don't you tell Wen Yu to let me stay up late during this period? Also, don't let Lu Jie make pork liver soup for me while I stay up late. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan replied without thinking. Don't worry, Uncle Hu. You can take care of it during the day. Even if I tell Wen Yu about you staying up late, it won't count. Lin Yuan was also against Hu Quan staying up all night. Compared to Hu Quan's creativity as a Class 5 spirit craftsman, Lin Yuan hoped that Hu Quan could create in a healthy state, instead of rushing for work, staying up all day and affecting his health. He had never treated Hu Quan as a tool and wanted to squeeze Hu Quan's labor at any time. Hu Quan's image was pieced together on the wall behind him. Hu Quan was already a part of the manor. Seeing that his plan didn't work, Hu Quan said angrily, Alright, I'm going to get busy. Go back to your room and don't let Lu Jie wait for too long. Lin Yuan finally knew what it meant to throw it away after using it. No, it should be thrown away if it's useless. What a jerk. When he logged on to Star Web this time, he put on the mask with the majestic Sky City pattern that Hu Quan had created with completely jade-textured silk threads. When he arrived at the entrance of the Purchase with No Loss store, he happened to see an acquaintance. When he saw the violent-tempered woman at the entrance of his store, he greeted her. The violent-tempered woman only recognized Lin Yuan when he took the initiative to greet her. It had to be said that Lin Yuan looked rather mature wearing the mask that Hu Quan had created, which only revealed his mouth and chin. The violent-tempered woman hurriedly said when she saw Lin Yuan, Sir, why did the store stop selling silver usnias and elite spirit siphon goldfish? Lin Yuan replied with a smile. It only stopped yesterday. I don't know when it will stop. If you need silver rank usnias, you can send me a message directly. He cherished the people he had known when he was weak. The violent-tempered woman quickly waved her hand and said, Sir, there's no need to trouble you. I've already gained so many benefits from your fan club. The violent-tempered woman was very grateful to Lin Yuan. When Lin Yuan had helped her daughter heal her phase-damaged roots, he had also improved her phase quality. He had also conveniently improved his daughter's phase quality. This was simply a huge favor. During this time, the violent-tempered woman had gotten to know many big shots in Lin Yuan's Purchase with No Loss store's fan club. Just by listening to the news from these big shots, the violent-tempered woman had carried out a few transactions of spiritual materials. This allowed the violent-tempered woman to earn a lot of radiance dollars. The radiance dollars the violent-tempered woman earned in this month was more than what she usually earned in 2 years of hard work in the Guild Alliance. Lin Yuan wanted to invite the violent-tempered woman into the store for a while. Just as he was about to invite the violent-tempered woman, she said, Sir, please go ahead. My roasted chicken is especially delicious. I'll send you a roasted chicken to touch later. After the violent-tempered woman left Lin Yuan's Purchase with No Loss store. As usual, she chatted in the Purchase with No Loss store's fan club. During her daily chatting, the violent-tempered woman accidentally spilled the beans. Violent-tempered woman, I saw the group owner at the entrance of the Star Web store. He seems to be going into the store to do something. The violent-tempered woman's message in the group made the eyes of many big shots light up. The group owner had always been mysterious. After they entered the group, they only saw the group owner auction 30 flower brocade pearls as a group welfare. After that, the group leader didn't say anything else. The group owner was usually uncontactable. This was because the mysterious group owner was so aloof that he did not reply to any messages at all. Now that they heard that the group owner had appeared in the store, many of the big shots in the group who saw the violent-tempered woman's message immediately took action. Lin Yuan had only stood at the entrance for a few minutes when he saw Lu Jie walking over wearing a mask made by Hu Quan. Lu Jie usually wore the Radiance Sacred Hall's 100 Successor battle armor on Star Web for the Radiance 100 sequence members. However, Hu Quan had changed the 100 Successor battle armor today and put on a reddish-gold half-body armor. Coupled with Lu Jie's mask, which only revealed his knife-like chin, he looked exceptionally heroic. When Lu Jie saw Lin Yuan, he was standing at the entrance of the store and opening the door of the originally closed Star Web store. Upon seeing this, Lu Jie knew that he had really guessed correctly. Lin Yuan was really the mysterious Purchase with No Loss store's owner. After Lin Yuan and Lu Jie met, they entered the Purchase with No Loss store. Lin Yuan's Purchase with No Loss store did not have any shelves inside. Since Lin Yuan had recently removed the silver usnias and elite spirit siphon goldfish, the Purchase with No Loss store's interior was empty. In addition, when Lin Yuan opened the store, the standard long table that Star Web had given him was still in the store. This made the Purchase with No Loss Star Web store look more like a restaurant with only one table than a fey and spiritual ingredient store. Lin Yuan had asked Lu Jie to come to the store half an hour earlier, which was 9:30 am. However, less than 5 minutes after Lin Yuan and Lu Jie sat down, they saw a thin man walk in. Lin Yuan asked the thin man, "Is it Zhou Luo? Is it Zhou Luo?" His appearance had been included in the personal information that the two King-class experts had sent him. Lin Yuan had already recognized that Zhou Luo was the King-class expert who had 3 willpower runes but had an extremely weak main fey. Second update: button fever, viral cold, New Year's Day, crying, asking for tickets. End of this chapter. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.